building strong international collaboration and the visibility of the local existing startups on the global scene. Serbia has shown to be an excellent strategic location for boosting the development of innovations in the Balkans. Strong education system with very talented and creative people in combination with the world-leading experts, which are brought as mentors through Imagine If program, resulted in the birth and acceleration of promising companies that will, with the right financial support, shape the future of healthcare. 2 years later, we have been joined by the world-leading experts on our journey in pioneering the first steps towards a stronger healthcare ecosystem in Serbia, including our amazing partners, Science Technology Park Belgrade, Health Tech Lab, as well as our sponsors, AstraZeneca, Roche, Oxquant, and many other companies and individuals who contributed to this program. This year, we have 9 best performing startups who worked for 6 months with more than 50 local and international mentors to accelerate their ideas further. The winning team will obtain the financial support and enter into global top 10 teams, which start the global acceleration phase. Not every ecosystem will have all necessary elements to support world-class science and facilitate its translation into commercial ideas. Thus, really, cross-collaboration between countries and disciplines is the key here. That is the reason why we gather today the best local and global experts, our speakers and panelists, to tackle exactly these topics. While founders should lead the way, governments are definitely the feeders of the ecosystem success. They're responsible to provide stable academic system and build financial and policy supported mechanism that will actually enable translation of emerging disruptive scientific ideas into revolutionary technologies. Therefore, I would also like to wish a very warm welcome to Dejan Kovačević, Digital Health Advisor at the Office for IT and E-Government, and Smiljana Milanovic, part of the Advisory Board of the Prime Minister Cabinet. Let's use the digitalization as our tool, where the innovation does not have borders of any kind, but it only relies on talented individuals and global networks. Most importantly, this is because through these ideas, we are and we will be helping patients who are the inspiration, motive, and everyday drive of us and the teams within our accelerator program. Now it is the time for me to introduce you to Dr. Ivan Roberts, the CEO of Innovation Forum, who will address the audience and tell you a bit more about what we're doing on the global level. Welcome, Ivan.
Yeah, thanks, Sasha. So yeah, we really value all of our branches around the world and value their strength and independence to bring forward new ideas and really create a community of scientific entrepreneurs, because I think that support really helps generate new ideas and actually take that forward, have sort of cross-founder collaboration as well. And in these unprecedented times, although challenging, have opened up some opportunities and by breaking down regional barriers and allowed us to allowed our community to interact in a way where we couldn't before. And we're really excited to have opportunities now to work between lots of different branches and connect more between all sorts of different ecosystems, which is great. And Stasha and the teams at Health Tech Lab and Science Technology Park have done a fantastic job with Imagine If in Serbia as a first location in the Balkans. And it's a really strategic location, and with collaborations with the government and academia and large companies with strong presence in the region, it's really been great. I know Serbia has a really strong IT sector, but also in sort of the health space with, say, AstraZeneca and Roche, who've been generous supporters of this event. And I really like to thank all of our collaborators and supporters to make this happen. And yeah, the Science Technology Park was a natural collaborator because their excellence in boosting the development of the Serbian startup ecosystem and really the attitude to actually building up everyone and taking the whole level up is great, and really works with our philosophy to connect to a wider ecosystem. So yeah, I really can't wait to hear the great discussions with key opinion leaders, and also, of course, the pitches of our Imagine If startups today. So looking forward to it, and thank you very much everyone for attending.
Thank you, Ivan. As I said, UK is the place where all this began. So it is very important for us to keep these connections ongoing on multiple levels through academia, industry, and government, and still with the UK as the branching point of this whole idea. So now I would like to welcome Her Majesty's UK Ambassador to the Republic of Serbia, Ms. Shian McLeod. Welcome.
Thank you very much indeed. And I can honestly say that I'm absolutely delighted to be able to join you today for this panel. Ambassadors get many invitations and we get asked to speak at many events, and I can say I'm genuinely excited to be part of this today. And I'm sure when you all embarked on this competition journey many months ago, very few imagined the dramatic scientific and medical challenges that our countries and indeed the world were about to face. Or indeed that healthcare would be pushed so much to the top of the international agenda, with the global spotlight upon medical technology, medical expertise, medical innovation, not for one day or 1 week, as is so often the case in our fast, modern 24-hour media age, but sustained interest and attention over months. So it's your world, the world of medicine, the world of medical technology, that is keeping the world moving. Your skills, your expertise, your innovation and your creativity are more relevant perhaps now than ever before. You have my utmost heartfelt admiration and respect. I should, of course, thank the formal thing, thank the organisers of the event, the Cambridge Innovation Forum, the Science and Technology Park, Health Tech Lab, and all the sponsors for your imagination, your innovation, and your support in establishing the Imagine If initiative. You two have shone a light on the vital and dynamic health tech scene here in Serbia and beyond. And today is a wonderful opportunity to allow innovators to present their ideas against the best of the best and potentially go on to compete with peers from around the world. And I'm honoured to be part of that today. And I really do thank all of you that are involved, inspiring, organising, coordinating, facilitating, and all the mentoring behind this. As a British diplomat and as a British citizen, I'm immensely proud of my country's strong and continuing tradition of medical and scientific innovation. I'm equally proud that we have a strong tradition of sharing our expertise and cooperating globally to make the world a better and healthier place. Whether we're talking about support for primary healthcare, whether we're talking about advanced medical research, or as we are talking about every day, every hour at the moment, world-class pharmaceutical and vaccine development. So I'm delighted and honoured to share this virtual platform with all of you and with colleagues from NHS and Academic Health Science Network, from AstraZeneca, who are very much in the forefront of attention and the headlines here as well as in the UK, with Cambridge University, with Startcode, and with colleagues and from the DIT, our Department for International Trade, and the Global Entrepreneurship Programme. So we do believe in the UK fervently in fostering and supporting startups. We also believe in supporting access to finance and investment for future growth. We want to and we enjoy sharing what we have learned about best practice and helping your local ecosystem fulfill its potential. So, but most importantly, the most important people today, I want to talk to and to congratulate everybody who's competing today. I look forward to hearing the outcome of the discussions today and the competition today, but as far as I'm concerned, you're already all winners. And if the pandemic has shown us anything, it is the essential role of science and business innovation for the future of our changing world, because it is a changing world. And every single meeting I have with the government here, with the president, we are talking about innovation in the future. We're talking about the scientific and the medical innovation that is going to take our world to a better place, whether that is the vaccine development, the medical research, whether it's the green technologies, the green energy development. This is absolutely critical to our future. So congratulations to everybody in advance. I wish you all luck. Again, I thank the organisers and everybody behind it and the sponsors, but to the participants and competitors, I wish you luck today, and I wish you luck in all your future endeavours. Thank you very much. Hvala puno.
Thank you, dear Ambassador. This was a wonderful message. Thank you for your support. And none of the ideas can be implemented without good collaborators who actually share the mission with you and want to incorporate and follow the same mission further. So I would like to introduce you to Nevina Yankovic from Science Technology Park Belgrade, one of the main collaborators of Innovation Forum in Serbia.
Thank you, Stasha. Firstly, let me wish you all a very warm welcome on the behalf of Science Technology Park Belgrade. So this is the place that gathers the most talented and most inspiring innovators in our ecosystem, and this is definitely the place where one of the international programs such as ImagineIF should be holding. Last week, we've celebrated our 5th birthday, and it really made me feel proud to be part of the community of more than 100 companies that we currently support. To the ImagineIF teams, I'm more than happy to see all of you improving your solutions and your businesses each and every day in the last few months, answering the critical questions our society is facing. This was extremely challenging for all of us, and against all odds, you delivered and exceeded our expectations. I wish you all good luck and to seize every opportunity given. And now I want you to know that our cooperation doesn't end here. So we are soon going to open a call for a completely new program, Raising Starts, which also includes pre-seed funding. So I will also like to invite all of you to keep cooperating with us and to keep bringing your visions into reality. Stay tuned, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Nevina. And we have Ivana Kostic from Health Tech Lab. Welcome, Ivana.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Stasha. I'm very happy to be here, actually 2nd year in a row in the local finals. And this has been really a challenging year, but I would like to thank both Nevina and Science Technology Park and Stasha for pulling this through. We have provided to the program the very best of health tech startups from Serbia, but also to the startups, we have provided great opportunity to interact with professionals, mentors, and sponsors from both ecosystems of UK and Serbia. Most of all, we have inspired the whole Serbian health tech community to contribute in their own ways, and I think they did a terrific job. So I would like to wish you all a great event today, and I would like to wish best of luck to all the startups, but also to ask you to continue developing your innovations, visions, and products for those who need it most. Thank you all.
Thank you for beautiful messages. Now it's the time to really kick off this event, and I think there is no better way than starting with AstraZeneca. Their operation in the UK can almost serve as a reference model for other ecosystems and will hopefully inspire other pharma giants to do the same thing in developing countries as AstraZeneca did in Serbia. One of the leaders who reshaped the strategy and disrupted the way AstraZeneca collaborates with academic institutions, startups, and government is Dr. Hitesh Sanjani, Head of Emerging Innovations at AstraZeneca. What is the impact of open innovations, and why is it important to share data? What are the benefits for all of the sides? Dr. Sanjani will tell us today. Welcome.
Cool. I hope you can see my slides. Can you guys see?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for the invitation to speak. It's it's a really great, I've been supporting the Innovation Forum for a number of years from Mirek as well, I think when he was CEO, and now I see you and Robert's the CEO. So it's great to see a great organization. I think it's really powering innovation around the world, some student-led, some worker-led as well. So it's really, really cool. So it gives me great pleasure to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is open innovation and entrepreneurship, and something that I'm a big, and I think is quite key to the Innovation Forum and its message around the world.
Now I will call Nevina, who will introduce our panelists and bring Jason Mella to the stage.
Thank you, Stasha. Thank you, Hitesh, and all of you for participating in this event. So yeah, intersection of academia, industry, and government have always been a good ground for building and innovations. And that is exactly what is the topic of our next panel discussion. At this point, Jelena Begovic unfortunately didn't manage to join us today for health reasons. Jelena, we really hope that you will recover soon. So yeah, now I would like to introduce Jason Mella. He is the CEO and co-founder of Start Codon, which is Cambridge-based accelerator. He is also a passionate entrepreneur and scientist. And Jason, thank you very much for supporting ImagineIF for the second year now. The stage is yours.
Thank you, everyone. And it's a deep honor of mine to come back to the event. I wish I could be there in person, but as we all know, this is extraordinary times. It really is a pleasure of mine to be able to support the up and coming entrepreneurs of Serbia. So again, big thank you to all the organizers for having me here again. I have to say that today I am wearing the hat of moderator. So it is my absolute pleasure to spend most of this time introducing our wonderful panel of speakers who are here to discuss exactly that: healthcare innovation, academia meets industry and government. So without further ado, I would like to introduce those speakers. And also I'll tell you a bit about myself, but then we'll get into the discussion around how we can make Serbia the next big innovator and develop a hub for biotech innovation right in the homegrown Belgrade and other cities in Serbia itself. So Jelena Petrovic, thank you for joining the panel. Jelena's background is that she's the head of business development for the Science Technology Park Belgrade. She wears multiple hats, including driving the growth of the Serbian innovation ecosystem through several entrepreneurial support programs. We also have Dr. Louise Joplin. So, hi, Louise. So Louise is the commercial director of the Eastern Academic Health Science Network based in the UK, which is part of a national network of academic health science networks established by the UK NHS to help translate more innovations into positive patient outcomes. Louise is an immunologist with over 25 years of pharma experience across the spectrum of therapeutic research and development. And finally, Dr. Sonia Marianovic. Hi, Sonia, welcome. Sonia is the Director of Healthcare Innovation, Industry and Policy at the International Not-for-Profit Policy Institute, RAND Europe, where she leads a portfolio of work on health innovation and healthcare service improvement. Sonia has worked very broadly across both the public and private sectors, and she's founded her own diagnostic startup, which I'm sure might come into the conversation at some point. So if everyone could go off of mute, we'll just get into it. I think the first topic of conversation is, how do you actually go about building an effective healthcare innovation ecosystem? We at Start Codon, we are based in Cambridge, but we're an international focused accelerator because we recognize that there is talent everywhere, but not all talent necessarily has to move locations. You can actually develop innovation ecosystems across the board. So maybe if I could start off with Louise, what are your thoughts from your experience of what it takes to build a healthcare innovation ecosystem?
Yeah, so it's around that network. It's the like-minded individuals, and I'll talk from an AHSM perspective as well as I can talk from an external innovation in large pharma perspective. But it's about really bringing together those clusters of the universities, the third sector, patients, the startups, but also those large corporates, and really enabling a conduit for those innovators to come together and to really share, and you can generate some what I call synergistic innovations for some of the challenges that we were perhaps hearing earlier from Hitesh. And that's what really gets me out of bed in the morning, and what's really exciting about being in the environment that we are. But the AHSNs are only 7 years in existence, but whilst the NHS recognised they weren't very quick at getting innovation within the system, so providing that conduit to help make that happen.
Definitely, and I think it's something we can get into later, Louise, is how perhaps the model of the AHSN could be deployed elsewhere. So for Serbia, for example. Now, what about examples in Serbia, Jelena? What do you think could be the nucleus of an innovation ecosystem on the ground? I mean, you spend a lot of time supporting entrepreneurship. You've got your incubator there. What have you learned, and what are your thoughts?
Thank you, first of all, Jason. It is a pleasure to be here and exchange our views with all of you. So basically, if you look at this ecosystem, we used to say that Science Technology Park is this small ecosystem by itself, basically because it combines all these sectors. We have founders that we connect, like University of Belgrade, Government of the Republic of Serbia, and the behalf of the Government Ministry of Education, Science and Technology Development, together with the City of Belgrade and the companies here. So basically all ingredients necessary for the exchange and development of this ecosystem and in general innovation. So basically, I think, as already mentioned, that this interaction and this collaboration is the key, basically putting everybody at the same table to discuss different ideas and things. And we, for example, already had here multiple examples where, for example, the companies were exchanging views with the institutions and lobbying for some changes in the regulatory framework that would enable them to do a business in a much better way. And this access is definitely something that is being enabled through the instruments like Science Technology Parks or some other similar organizations in different countries. So I believe that this is the kind of setup that enables really innovation to make happen.
Thank you, Jelena. And one of the things that you highlighted there is how important it is to have not only the infrastructure, but the support of government and that interaction between what you could call public-private partnerships. Sonia, it would be great to get your thoughts, that you deal a lot in this area of driving innovation across the globe. So as your role at RAND Europe, what do you think are some of the elements that make for successful ecosystems?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you as well for inviting me. I couldn't agree more with Louise and with Jelena. I think innovation is all about relationships and networks between the public and the private sector, and also with healthcare professionals, because they're the market for many of the innovations we develop. But I think that the key to building an effective healthcare innovation ecosystem really rests in the word system, and the ingredients of such a system are rather diverse. So beyond the relationships and networks, I think it's absolutely critical to have access to funding, but funding is, and we'll come back to funding later, no doubt. Funding is necessary, but it's not sufficient for innovation. We need to nurture skills, we need to nurture capabilities, and we need to nurture leadership for innovation. And that doesn't apply only to developing skills in the private sector. That's, of course, important. But we also need to develop innovation skills in the university system, because that's where fresh talent comes from. And we are increasingly seeing universities as institutions that have a responsibility to not just do blue skies research, but also to do research that is applied or directly applicable to societal needs. And this means that we need programs, including programs supported through government, that focus on nurturing not only technical skills and kind of hard science skills, but also an entrepreneurial mindset, because innovation is as much a mindset as it is about products, technologies, and services. And bringing innovations to market requires more than just the scientific skills. It requires business skills, negotiation, networking skills. So I think the skills agenda is huge. And in the UK, there are various programs like the Clinical Entrepreneurs Program, NHS Innovation Accelerator, the HSNs, who have a key role in this. I think on the skills topic, one more thing that I'd flag is that we also need to build skills and capabilities amongst healthcare professionals, so amongst doctors, because they're the market for innovations. And I'm not saying that doctors need to be entrepreneurs. Some will be, and that's great, but it wouldn't be sensible to have every doctor also be an innovator. But doctors need to understand what innovation is about, what innovations are out there, what the potential is, so that they can adopt it and so that they can then embed it into high quality care. And I'm conscious of time, but I'd like to flag just a couple more things. Funding always receives the most attention, and it's hugely important to have funding both from industry and from government programs. I think in the context of Serbia and limited resources, not just in Serbia, but I guess everywhere, in the UK as well, I think it's really important that government funding programs are based on very clear criteria about what the priorities are that they want to support, what are the growth areas that they want to build in a country innovation-wise, and of course that they're transparent in their selection criteria. And in order for innovations not to die a silent death, but to reach the market, we also need funding not just for their development, but also for their adoption, because adoption doesn't just happen overnight. We can have the best innovations that are cost effective, and some of them don't see the light of day. And so it's really important to really have this kind of supply and demand matched. And the last thing I'll flag in terms of building this supportive system is that we have to have the appropriate innovation and information infrastructure. We've done a lot of work in this space with industry, with government, with charities, and we often hear that people just don't know where to go to find out about what funding opportunities are out there, what innovations exist. Are they just noise? Because we see a lot of innovations marketed that are unproven in value. So what's the evidence base? So if we're thinking at a national level of building an innovation system, we need to think about that information infrastructure as well. But I'll pause there.
So those are all excellent points, and I want to dive into several of them. I think one of the things that you did highlight was this skills kind of gap and making sure that we are really supporting and educating the next generation of entrepreneurs. But also there's an entrepreneurial thinking. That doesn't mean you're necessarily starting your own company, but you are very minded towards adopting innovation. So there's more of a pull from the market, a pull from the medical community, as opposed to just a push of innovation onto them. And I want to turn to Louise for a second and talk about this push and pull, because let's say we exist in a world in which all the support metrics are there and the system has been produced that Sonia has proposed. I'm going to be a bit controversial here and say that historically there's been a lot of brain drain of very talented Serbian individuals who've been, let's say, courted to other ecosystems. So what can we do to make sure that those innovations are deployed globally, but not necessarily in a brain drain context? How do we collaborate and build those connections?
Yeah, and I think just going back, Sonia did mention sort of a couple of the programs that the AHSNs are really instrumental in either delivering, leading, or just partners in, and that's the Clinical Entrepreneur Program, which is a national program funded by the NHS. And that aside, we, within our geography, so we cover the east of England, we're based in Cambridge, but we support clinical entrepreneurs by giving some peer mentoring, putting those national entrepreneurs in contact with the clinicians or allied health professionals, in fact, from our region to almost say, you're the ones at the cutting edge. You've got this idea. Don't just sit on it, and you can bring it to life. And some of them, it's about confidence. It's that sort of being able to put their head above the parapet. Oh, my colleagues might think that I'm getting a bit above my station. No, actually, you've got a really legitimate idea, and we want to help you test that, pilot it in a particular setting, and move it forward. But yeah, often, so how we have also helped support that pull of innovation into the system is by, so the Clinical Entrepreneur Program fosters the mindset and also retains the talent within the system, so that that's a key driver to your question. But we have also, within the Eastern AHSN, identified individuals within the different geographies within our region to identify innovation ambassadors that sit within their local health and care system, and maybe for a day a week or for a particular period of time, that's their job, is to identify the innovation that's from within their system and bring it to us, and we can help take it to the next stage. But also to say to us, here's really the three things that keep me awake at night. How can you help us? And so we've been working with Macmillan, for example, so cancer charity, to say, we will bring you innovators that we can vouch for, that we think match your needs. And so we've done these, they're not speed dating events, but they're matching events. And actually we've had a really great sort of 80% of those innovations are going forward to longer term sort of collaboration partnerships. So I think there's a number of things there, but we recognise that it's not just about trying to push that square peg into a round hole. Here's an innovation, throw it over the fence, now use it and move on and expect it to scale. There's a lot of the heavy lifting and support that Sonia and others have alluded to in today's sessions.
No, that's excellent. And it's so important to have those programs. And as you said, you don't want to necessarily take everybody out of their system. You just want to have a better understanding of what the needs are, and then you can match that with the innovations that are appropriate. So I suppose, Jelena, the question would be, this is, I think, an excellent model, and the UK has been leading the way in terms of giving an example of how this could be done. What do you think is maybe unique to Serbia? What are some things you've taken inspiration from other systems that could help drive more innovation locally?
Yes, thank you for the question. I really believe that, for example, Imagine If is a great example, and I think that international partnerships and collaborations are very important. So if we don't want for startups to go to the world, we bring the world to Serbia, and we try to bring this network and the knowledge and experience in the best possible way so that we can basically give them access to everything that they would receive elsewhere. And this is what that's why we are proud of this program. And we also established collaborations with other countries like Israel, Switzerland, and so on, exactly so that we can bring the best possible expertise to startups and provide them with all necessary tools and support in their further development. But what I would like to also mention, I think that it's very important when we talk about innovation in general, and this is like the maybe even cultural thing, and this is openness. Openness to collaboration, to different views, to ideas. We also see in the healthcare sector, there is this, when we talk about data and these silos, somehow in Serbia, this is functioning similar in the ecosystem, and this is what we can take from UK and other countries. This is how to make more interactions between different sectors, to make more collaborations within the ecosystem with big companies, academia, startups, and all other relevant actors. This is something that we were doing quite a lot in the previous years, but we are also aware of the fact that this is something that it's also a cultural thing, and that is being developed basically during the time. And I would also like to mention that Serbia has a long tradition, let's say, for example, in the pharmaceutical industry currently, like the IT sector is the second biggest exporter in the country. As already mentioned from the very beginning, the human talent is something that it's really key when it comes to regional even strength of Serbia in the terms of innovation. And there is a good, I would say, basis for further development and upgrade through all these tools that we were already mentioning.
Thank you, Jelena. And just to build on that point, I think that if you look at the examples of other successful ecosystems like Cambridge, for example, where Start Codon is based, there were kind of three key nucleators of that system. So you've had the likes of biologics that became MedImmune, which is now part of AstraZeneca. You had the genome revolution that came out of the Sanger, led to Alexa, which is now at Illumina. And you had things like ARM and other deep tech technologies that have given way to AI. So it sounds like Serbia is at the same equivalent step as to where Cambridge was before, where you have the nucleus of some really hot areas like digital health and other capabilities that you can use to build and grow the ecosystem. So it's actually really exciting. Now, to that point, Sonia, obviously there are some implications across the board for how academia, business, and government work well together. And I can only assume with your broad remit, you've seen where things go well and when things have not gone quite so well. So maybe you could share some of your thoughts around what good looks like and what might be some pitfalls to avoid.
It's a really good question. Sure. So I think the key to university and industry collaboration, but I would really add to that also collaboration with the healthcare service, is a shared vision of what the ultimate desired outcomes of that collaboration are and what role different actors are likely to play in the collaborative landscape. Things go well when there is a shared vision and clearly agreed roles and managed expectations, because of course innovation is an emergent process. I have witnessed many instances where innovators speak to, for example, those in the market, be that an industry client who would then help develop the idea further down the line, or to the NHS as an ultimate adoption market, and leave those conversations very enthusiastic and thinking that, yes, okay, this product has potential. And if we, get the trial evidence, get the cost effectiveness evidence, Addenbrooks or whoever that's is going to take it up. The reality is you often get innovators speaking to a specific doctor, but the way decisions are made in the NHS and in healthcare systems are much more complex. You have to have the clinicians, the managers, those that hold the purse strings, all aligned around what the priorities for adoption are. So your question was, when do things go wrong? Things go wrong when there isn't clarity on what's likely to be purchased and what the criteria are for success. Things I think also go wrong if innovations try penetrate the market before they've got a good evidence base behind them. So getting that evidence base is clearly very important. I think if we take it to the policy level, though, if we take it to looking at, at the whole system, and if we take it to thinking about Serbia, I think for Serbia, it's very important that when we're talking, or when Serbia is talking about collaborations with industry or R&D labs being set up in Serbia, that in return for some of the favorable incentives that companies may get for locating in Serbia, they also contribute to building local capability and capacity. So I think, and nurturing local talent. So I think that's absolutely critical. And then one more point, if we're looking at developing the Serbian ecosystem, there's so much talent. The panelists have already spoken about IT and data and digital. I would add to that engineering, for example, in the context of medical robotics and surgery. There's an awareness of international programs to a degree. There is a challenge with funding. And one thing that I would do would be to try bring those ideas and bring that potential to the international investment community more prominently. And I'm talking investment funds, venture capital, the early stage funders, and kind of invest some effort towards that end as well. I could go on forever, but I'll stop. Yeah, for now.
So, fantastic points. And as an international investor myself, I'm very keen on understanding not only once you've started to basically provide the foundations for those companies to come forward. As you said, that if you go into a system like Serbia, you got to make sure that you're giving back, and then also for nurturing the local environment, the local founders, so that they can elevate and be connected the other way. It seems like there's an opportunity not only for people capital moving back and forth, but also reverse innovation. I would love for Louise to talk a bit about that and also address some of the other points that you raised as well, because Lou, I'm sure that from your perspective, you've seen when things go well and when they don't go so well. Could you speak to some of the points that Sonia raised?
Yes, where do I begin? But no, I think we get a lot of. I'll start with some of the funding pieces. Actually, I think we hear a lot from small startups that just I want to be introduced to VCs, for example, without actually realizing what the specific VC or what their driver is, and without having done much of the respective homework. There are a lot of investment, let's call them engines out there, and maybe it's a bit of an education. So we have been supporting many of our startups and companies that are going for scale up as well, which is also an important thing. We talk about brain drains or trying to minimize that. Actually, we're very good at starting up, and there are some great examples of scale ups and potential, whether you call them unicorns or otherwise. But I think it is very much about helping that innovator understand the stage at which they're at today, where they want to be. Do they want to be in this for the long haul, or will that mean that they have to leave their clinical practice, for example? So that's sort of one component. And I think really we are doing a lot of work with international organizations ourselves. That's investment groups, and so it's enabling those innovators not just to scale within the UK or in our geography and then the broader UK, but actually this is proven. You've got your NHS stamp, and now we can work with other countries, and I'd love to be, I see today as part of the start of that with Serbia, for example. But similarly, Serbian companies or companies from outside of the UK landing in the UK and streamlining that for them. And I'm more than happy to be discussed, to be contacted afterwards, because we've got a variety of sort of toolkits and resources that can really support anybody become as conversant with the NHS as possible. And that being fluent cannot start early enough in a journey. So think of us as your sort of somebody in your corner.
I think that's an excellent way of putting it. And to the point that you raise, it goes both ways. So there's the opportunity for you and organizations like EHSN to facilitate innovation coming into the NHS, coming into the UK from Serbia, for example, and vice versa. I'm sure that there's opportunities for companies in the UK who want to run clinical trials in Serbia, who want to set up R&D hubs in Serbia, etc., to engage that way as well, or even get their innovations into Serbia's health system. So it's really good that I'm sure that everybody in this panel would agree that if anyone is listening to this, we're all here fighting for the same thing, to really bridge between the two, and very much in the vein of Imagine If. So the question then is, if we have these mechanisms in place, once an idea is decided, once then innovation has been created, once the founding team is there to push it forward, how do we actually get the funding to get to that point in the first place? Because ideation through translational funding to get to the point of an investable asset or idea, that's still a gap. And Jelena, I'd love to hear more about, in Serbia, what opportunities are there for translational funding? What support is there for the young entrepreneurs who are listening on this call after they've gone through Imagine If? Where do they go next?
So basically, as Nevina mentioned at the beginning, we are very happy that with the support of the Swiss government, we are going to launch, hopefully this month, a new program which will last for 4 years, where we will provide this kind of funding that you already mentioned. It's very important for building the first prototypes and basically checking, validating if the idea actually works in a practice. So we will fund up to 100 companies in the next 4 years in 3 different regions in Serbia. And we believe truly that this will be a boost for the ecosystem, because as you mentioned, this is somehow that is a gap that's actually missing, how to build something which is for the investors worth of actually looking at all. And to mention on the things we already discussed related to the funding, basically also there are other tools, like the Innovation Fund has different mechanisms, the Innovation Fund of Serbia, mini grants program, collaboration schemes between industry and academia, vouchers, different tools, metric program as well, to fund innovative ideas in different stages of development. Also, Science Fund was established quite recently, which is more for the research area, but still very important as this initial stage from which the ideas for applications are coming from, actually. And but there is also, I would say, a lack of the private money in the country. We have only one VC currently operating for the Western Balkan area. And I truly believe that private money is extremely important as well, since it's kind of giving another type of push for companies. And I would also mention that what we saw as a challenge when it comes to startups in Serbia, and it's most probably because there are not many VC options locally, that it's not bringing them this perspective to kind of go and search outside from Serbia for the investments. And very often when we ask them, okay, did you make a list or kind of research on the investors that would fit your team or contacted them? Usually the answer is no, we don't know how to look for them and so on. So we are really trying to provide them all these like different cases from the companies which already raised some money and push them a bit more to search for this kind of opportunities, because as already mentioned by one of the previous speakers, we are now in the global research is global, innovation are global. So at this point, like being in Serbia, especially now during COVID, doesn't make any difference than being in any other country in the world. And we actually had an example of one startup from Serbia which managed to raise $1 million during COVID times in 1 month. So sitting from Serbia and working from Serbia. So it's possible. It's just this passion and the drive. And I would, just advise to all companies and startups listening to us to just search for these opportunities, and of course to follow our program that is going to come next.
Jelena, thank you so much. And I think that's an excellent story of triumph during such a tragic time as this pandemic, that there are companies out there that are still innovating, they're still fundraising, and where there's a will, there's a way. Maybe if I could turn to some of the questions that are coming through, and thank you, please do keep them coming, they're excellent ones. We'll just piggyback off of the investment side. This is for Louise and all the panelists, but where can the listeners find the different investment engines that are available to them? I mean, Jelena, you just highlighted how important it is not only to apply for the translational funding early on, but also private investment. So Louise, where would you recommend that they go to identify investment opportunities?
Yeah, so we've, as an organization, we've recognized this and have every 2 weeks, we send out a list of funding opportunities to SMEs that are on our list or interested folk. A lot of those will be the sort of translational funding routes, but many are much larger. So that's sort of one piece. I think the other piece as well, there are a number of associations where you've got access to that membership. Just, you know, you can make those contacts, and I can certainly help broker those. And I do also have another toolkit that has an international investment. It is in medtech. So again, it depends what the innovation space is in, but I could readily provide that. A lot of it is through those networks, as we said right from the outset. So getting to know those individuals, but there are, let's say, hubs of clustered information out there, and I'd be more than happy to share, and I'm sure other panelists would be as well.
Definitely, and I see there's a follow-up question about getting onto mailing lists and getting this information. As a follow-up to this, everyone is here participating in the Imaginative program. Innovation Forum is an excellent way to get into contact with all of us. So I think as a follow-up to this panel, if there's anybody out there who's listening, any of the contestants who are interested in more information, I'm sure that, as Louise said, we'd all be happy to help. And if you want to go through Stasha and the other organizers at Imaginative Serbia, I'm sure they'll be able to put you in the right direction. Another question is, you brought up something earlier, Sonia, about making sure that we educate the medical community around innovation. So what would you recommend as a great way to approach the medical community when maybe innovation is not at the forefront of their mind? Maybe they're just thinking about fighting fires. So how do we get them thinking longer term of innovation?
Yeah, I think there's two dimensions to this, and I'm looking at the question as well. So I'll start with a more concrete one. If you're an entrepreneur who has something that you think could be valuable for the sector, it's important to make sure that you're speaking to the right people in the medical profession. And that's sometimes a consultant, a doctor. Sometimes it's a manager or a financial director in a hospital. But equally, it's very important to have alignment with national programs. So in the UK, for example, it's not huge scale, but you have something called the Innovation and Technology Payment or the Innovation and Technology Tariff. And essentially these are pull funding for bringing innovations into the healthcare system. And it's quite clear what types of areas and innovation areas there's an interest in. But if we're talking more, Jason, to your point, which is about sensitizing the healthcare profession to the value of innovation, that's really a cultural change. And that has to start early on. So you really need to start training people through medical education curricula when they're learning to become doctors, and then nurturing that training throughout continuing professional development. In the UK, that's been done quite a lot for research. So people, doctors in training are taught about research and how they can do research. And only now are we seeing a bit more traction on the innovation agenda as well. So yeah, I hope that helps answer the question.
No, definitely.
On the funding side, I just also point out that lists of venture capital associations like the British Venture Capital Association are good to consult. And I know from personal experience that there are VCs who are increasingly interested in identifying opportunities in regions like ours. So sorry, just to throw that in.
No, thank you, Sonia. That's an excellent point as well. And I can't emphasize enough that the reason why I'm supporting Imagine if Serbia as a start code on as a venture capitalist myself is that we recognize there's so much talent, both in terms of the ideas and the human capital within the Serbian ecosystem, that we would love and be honored to support through our program. And there are other accelerator programs out there as well. We're not the only one by any means. So think about that as a next step, as a potential. Just building what you said, Sonia, as well as that education piece. I think you highlighted both sides of making sure that you start the education early on, but also when it comes to the adoption, there has to be a clear benefit. There's an unmet need that's being addressed, and there's a clear benefit that whoever is listening, and for all you innovators out there, be clear on what you're addressing. Jelena, let's bring it back to a bit more specific for the Serbian ecosystem again. So one of the questions is, do local healthcare companies emphasize certain problems that innovation can resolve? So from your experience in the Serbian ecosystem, are there some particular challenges that are crying out for innovation?
So yes, when we look at the healthcare system in general, I think that we can find some correlation also with other countries in the world. So first of all, prevention, definitely, how we prevent some diseases from happening and therefore cut the expenses and the budgets basically that are related to treating these diseases. The second one is the aging problem, I would say. So basically the social healthcare system is very challenged by this problem. And I believe that there is a huge area for innovation in that respect. Government was doing a lot in the previous years when it comes to integrated information and system in the healthcare, but also in different e-health services. And this part is definitely something that also needs to be improved when it comes to data and how we are having like a holistic picture of a treatment of one person. And definitely there are some diseases for which Serbia is on the top of the list, like the heart disease, different kind of cancers like lung cancer and so on, which definitely require some solutions in order to be able to tackle them effectively.
Thank you, Jelena. I think you've outlined that there are some unique challenges in the homegrown Serbian ecosystem itself that could be immediately addressed by a lot of the innovations that we've seen come through Imagine If, the program, but also that I'm sure there's that reverse innovation opportunity as well, because there are other communities suffering from similar disorders, similar diseases. And so that's a market just waiting to be tapped into. So I'm looking here, please everyone do keep your questions coming. The panelists so far the questions have been fantastic and we're always happy to address them. I do want to ask Louise to speak a bit about blue sky versus translational research. It's something that we were discussing in the prep towards this. And I mean, obviously it can't all be about translation. Blue sky has its place, but not at the expense of developing innovations that are going to lead to positive patient outcomes. So what are your thoughts, Lou, on how to get that balance right?
Yeah, and this is something that the balance Johnson & Johnson Innovation, which was where I was before I joined Eastern AHSN, I guess I focus my day job and my team in, we're here to serve the patients, and so focusing most of our time and efforts on what I call clinic ready, or let's call it health and care system ready. And so that can be in technologies up to about 12 months from being clinic, testing in a clinical context. But you do need to balance that. I come from a pharmaceutical background, so I was thinking pipelines. And it is very much about those what I call midterm, and I've arbitrarily defined those as sort of between 1 and 3 years from being clinic ready. And then also a small proportion of our time and finances are spent on the very early, it's the idea stage at this moment in time, because I said right at the front, you do, however early your idea, your concept, your technology is, it's still always good to be conversant in what you're trying to address. And to your earlier point, Jason, is there a true unmet need, or is it just this is your pet project and you're now trying to force fit it into a system that actually cannot bear that or cannot support that? So I think that's really important. And even what I would argue are relatively mature innovations, we constantly have to go back and help them work on their value proposition and that market access strategy, because it feels obvious to the innovator. But actually, if you can't convince us or myself or my team, then there's no way we can help broker those relationships with anybody within the clinical setting. And to Sonia's point, it's not about talking to the lead clinician in that particular therapeutic area. It's getting all of those stakeholders. And if somebody sees through that, right, if I can see through that, then any of those people are going to see through it. And that makes it extremely hard. But I think to say to answer your question, we do work on anything, whether it's blue sky very early, but that's how we manage our time, and so that we can, our metrics for the Office for Life Sciences, we can really demonstrate the impact.
Thank you, Louise. And I cannot emphasize enough the importance of understanding your stakeholders and addressing those challenges that are really going to lead towards a viable product. And then, as you said, mapping out your market access strategy is key. And this is why you have to have a network of partners to support you as well. We're not expecting anybody listening here or early stage young founders to have all the answers yourselves. Find the experts who can help you think through and figure out which questions you should be asking, and then help you find the answers. We have another question that's come in asking around, how do you deal with the risk of delivery, especially as you tackle grant to business? I think maybe if I interpret that question, delivery and execution is everything. So maybe if I could just go around robin with the panelists to find out their thoughts on the best way to make sure that you can actually execute and deliver on your plans. Sonia, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Jason. If I understand the question correctly, it's about supporting success and continuous growth as well. And I think part of the solution there is in constant reflective and evaluative practices and milestone-based funding. That's how the funding infrastructure works in general. No one funds a development project from A to Z. There are checks and balances and balance points and evaluation points throughout the process. The only other thing I'd add, it's really important that the team that's charged with delivery has the right mix of skills, both the scientific and the operational and the marketing and the financial management skills. I think half the road to success is in the team.
No, great point. And all the world leading VCs I've ever spoken to or had the pleasure of working with have said, team is everything. If you don't have the right team, you will get nowhere. Jelena, to that point, you've seen many companies come through your facilities and you're supporting many others. What do you think are some of the things from your experience that are important for execution and delivery?
Well, first of all, I think focus is very important. And this is especially difficult for the startups at the beginning because they don't know where to start from. They don't know what are the priorities. They don't know how to actually manage those in the best possible way. So I think that, as we already mentioned, the expert support is also quite relevant in that part as well for setting up the plan. And as Sonia already mentioned, like putting the objectives and KPIs and kind of looking at them carefully and following up on them regularly. So basically, it's very important that, for example, every week a startup has a certain set of goals, and to kind of on the end of the week sit with the team and discuss what's being done, what was a problem for them, what's something missing, what should they include, and so on. So this is something which is extremely relevant. Next to this, like different skills that they need, they also need to understand that this is like a hard work, like extremely hard work that requires some time and energy and focus in order to produce results.
Thank you, Yelena. Louise, any additional words of wisdom?
I think just to capitalize on what's been said about team, we've taken a few of our organizations through what we call a scale-up academy. So it's about what technology readiness level or TRL that the company's at, and helping them go beyond just testing in one context and spreading that, and that could be internationally as well as nationally. And we have seen companies where they, shortly after that scale-up academy, and that's the start of an ongoing process for that organization, that they have changed their C-level structure, because actually what they hadn't realized, they're all the founders from day one and they all get on really well, but now they need a next set of skills, and who was the CEO at that point in time may not be the right fit for where the company is and where its ambition is to move to in the next period of time. So I just want to really emphasize that, and having seen that in practice, I cannot emphasize what everybody else has said enough.
Excellent point. And there's a piece of self-awareness there as well, that if you're listening and you're a CEO, founder of your company, don't think that you're necessarily going to be the CEO forever. You have to have that awareness of that there's a right team and the right leadership for the right phase of growth for the company. And it'd be much better for you to be self-aware and understand that than it would be to have your board have a difficult conversation with you. We've got another great question to kind of round out the panel session. So one of the things that we do well in the UK is bringing together interdisciplinary teams. There was a point that Sonia brought up earlier as well about there's engineering capabilities, IT capabilities, healthcare, molecular biology, whatever it may be, but bringing those individuals together to help drive innovation. What can we do in the Serbian context to really make sure that that continues to grow? It may be already in place, but how do we promote that? Yelena, I'll start off with you first.
So I think that what's really important in the countries like Serbia to kind of showcase some kind of collaborations and results that could serve as a basis for some strategic level changes. So in that respect, some of the experience that we had when the business incubator, for example, was created in 2008, this kind of small initiative, bottom-up initiative started. So the tech park, basically when it was established in 2015, this was not the start. So the start was when we actually proved that it's possible to create businesses and start innovating and so on. So this also gave like an input to the government and institutions that this is somehow very important and that we have some evidence on that. It's similar in this area, and I would like to also say that the healthcare industry is particular in many aspects because it really has to involve like all relevant stakeholders in order to really flourish compared to, for example, IT, where you need a computer and maybe a team and some small funding at the beginning. Healthcare requires much more than that, requires also like the healthcare service providers, requires academia, requires also government, since the regulation is something that it's also extremely relevant for startups. And in order to kind of push this on the another level, on the policy level and strategic level, this kind of programs like the Imagine If and the mini collaborations that were created as an evidence that this is something that can really be successful in Serbia are extremely good, because at the end of the day, and we already mentioned that healthcare industry is worth a lot when it comes to in financial terms, but also when it comes to jobs and all other aspects of the economy, and can provide really a good impact on the economy of the country. So I am really I'm really positive about the impact that we are going to create and that we are already creating in the ecosystem when it comes to the policy framework as well.
You know, there are two great points that you've raised amongst many, is lead by example and support through policy. And on that point, if we could just take it a little bit to the next tier, Sonia, can you talk about the grander European strategy? I mean, obviously innovation is at the core of what Europe is doing going forward. We know there are lots of activities going on, not to mention the US elections and Brexit and all sorts of things happening. So in that context, and in the vein of Europe really trying to make sure that innovation is the key for the next 5, 10, 15 plus years, what can you say about how this fits in the grander policy and strategy of the European Union?
Oh goodness, that's a huge question. I'll try to cover it in 2 minutes. What I can say is that innovation and evidence-based practice is at the core of both DG-RTDs, so that's the Directorate of the European Commission that's responsible for research and innovation, and DG Sante, which is the Directorate that's responsible for healthcare, at the core of their strategies in areas as broad as data and digital and AI and antimicrobial resistance and vaccines. I mean, the digital agenda is very, very big in innovation in the European Union. I think what we're also seeing more and more of at the European level, and also in the UK, at least at a national level, and that's in my mind absolutely critical for successful policy, is collaboration between different directorates, or at the national level between ministries. So I think what's most dangerous is when you have siloed decision-making. So for example, if you have the Ministry of Science and ministries in charge of innovation and ministries in charge of healthcare, all doing their own things, you get wasted budgets, lack of coordination, and power struggles. What we are seeing a little bit more of is collaborative funding programs. And there's been a really nice one recently in the area of artificial intelligence in the UK, where different ministries different departments, government departments work together. In the past, we had situations where you'd have a minister with a shared post sitting between different government departments. So I think for Serbia, it would be quite important to think about how those in charge of science budgets and innovation budgets and healthcare budgets coordinate in order to support, to get most bang for our buck and to support a coordinated high impact system. And similarly at the European level, more of this coordinated investment is I think critical for the future. If we talk about areas that could take a long time, I think I've mentioned some, but I would refer people to strategies set out by Horizon 2020, DG Sante, and DG RTD for further information.
Excellent, thank you, Sonia. And I think the key here is that it's about collaboration, it's about coordinated efforts. And as if I could summarize some of the points that have come up from this panel, is that there is a top-down approach, but there's definitely a bottom-up. I mean, the top-down, you've got the government institutions, you've got initiatives like the AHSSNs in the UK, et cetera, where there are these structures put in place to be there to provide the support and to help. But from the bottom up, it's really the founders, it's really the innovators on the ground who are going to have to be doing the work to make sure that they're actively going out and engaging, that they're understanding what their unmet needs are that they're addressing and how to get their innovation forward. So the two will meet in the middle, and that's where we really get true innovation and building an ecosystem. So thank you, everyone. I think we probably are up on time. So I just want to thank the panelists again, and also Imagine for inviting us to join today, and reiterate that everybody who participated in this panel, and I'm going to speak on Hitesh's behalf as well, and everyone else who's presented, we're all here enthusiastic about Serbia, enthusiastic about your future, and we'd love to help support you.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you, all of you, to this fantastic panel. It was very inspiring, very motivating, and I think we covered the most important things that will hopefully inspire and make our attendees talk to us more and collaborate. I just want to emphasize that Imagine if Serbia is the first ever accelerator, healthcare accelerator in Serbia. So this is just the beginning, and thank you for joining us in pioneering this new journey for healthcare in Serbia. And I want to call all of you panelists and all our attendees to really join us in this effort. And hopefully next year, we will have more companies on our board, the government, policymakers, academia, different institutes from Serbia working together with us, not only through the startup level, but also through different strategies and mechanisms that we mentioned today during the panel. Thank you, Jason, and thank to all of the panelists for today's session. I would like to tell you now that we will have a really short break, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, have a coffee, glass of water, and then we will start with our startup competition. See you in a bit. Okay, we are back. I would like to call Ivana Kostić now from Health Tech Lab to introduce us to our judges of the Imagine If local finals and welcome our startups.
Hello, it's Ivana here from Health Tech Lab.
It was a great event so far. I'm really happy to hear all the outcomes of the panel. And it would be great to share our experience as Health Tech Lab or local Health Tech Serbian ecosystem with the panelists, but we will do that another time. Great, so it's pitching time. I'm here with the startups and they seem ready to pitch. But before we start, I have a great pleasure to present to you today the local finals jury members. They're all top professionals from healthcare industry. Today with us, Dr. Aleksandar Tripkovic, Country Director at AstraZeneca, Serbia. Dr. Aleksandra Vidakovic, Medical Country Director at Roche, Serbia. Tony Kipreos, Mentor and Lecturer at Cambridge Judge Business School, Executive Education. And Marko Panic, Principal Program Manager at Microsoft. The jury will decide today the most innovative local Serbian health tech startup that has been through the whole program this year. Once again, the winning team will participate at the global finals of Imagine Barcelona in the spring of 2021. Now let the games begin. Each startup will have 3 minutes to pitch and 5 minutes of Q&A. Let's see the first startup. Take care, can get ready. Yes, please proceed.
Hi, everyone. Just give us a few seconds so we get Tony Kipreos on board, our last judge. Take care, team. Give us a second. Just pause on your pitch. Okay, Tony is coming. Give us 1 more minute.
So the first team, take care.
Okay, take care. Let's start.
Okay, can we start? Okay. Good day to everyone. My name is Marco, and I will be representing Take Care for you today. So just
it's not changing. Technical problems.
Okay. Can I start?
Thank you.
Okay, hello again. As I said, my name is Marco, and I will be presenting to you Take Care. $300 billion spent annually on healthcare costs. 125,000 people die each year, and 10% of total hospitalization is cost. Why? Because of medication errors. My grandma was also the victim of this problem, and that is why we decided to fix it. Seniors have a lot of trouble trying to remember to take their medication on time, and even when they do, they tend to mix up their medication, which can be fatal for them. That is why they have to rely on you, their caregivers, to help them. And because of this pandemic situation, it is also a lot harder for you to help them directly. And if we look at you, well, You have your wife, your job, your kids. Imagine if you have to take care of someone else. That leads to a lot of constant worry, doesn't it? And all of that can build up a lot of emotional and physical stress. So we came up with Take Care Smart Medication Dispenser and Take Care Smart Medical Pill Box, which bring to the table correct medication to the correct user at the correct time, and reminding them to take their medicine using light and sound signals. And you, the caregiver, will be notified whether they had taken their medicine or not. And you don't have to worry anymore about medication falling into the wrong hands thanks to our smart lock technology. And all of this will be managed by our mobile application, which will also keep track of user compliance and medication history. And this is all meant for anyone who is taking care of someone with constant therapy, whether that someone is your elderly, your children, or even you. And we plan to approach every client directly through their local pharmacy and drugstores, and also through our website. For you, the caregiver, we finally offer you peace of mind and less stress. And for your loved one, we offer correct medication at the correct time and increased adherence. We are Take Care team, and we're taking care of your family for you, with you, by providing modern and innovative solutions for taking care of your health at home. Set it and forget it. Invest in your health. Invest in Take Care. Thank you. Okay, that sound for everyone who can't see is our dispenser at work. It's medicines. It delivers the medicine, and this is just the prototype.
Yes.
And we're ready for a Q&A session.
Thank you. Take care. Let's hear the jury. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, so I can start. Can you tell us a bit more about the connectivity technology you're using between the dispenser and the app and the notifications?
My colleague Stefan will tell you something more about it.
Hello, like Marco said, my name is Stefan. And about connectivity, it's based on IoT technology. We are using for the application and for the server, we are using .NET technology. And for the box and for the medication dispenser, we are using some protocols that are based today on industry. And currently, we work on creating a new protocol because we want to be, the whole connectivity want to be less insecure and more flexible. That's pretty much of that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi guys, it's Tony here. Thank you for the presentation. I want to focus most on the route to market. I wasn't quite clear how you're going to sell this effectively and if you've made any inroads already.
Okay, so our main plan is to sell it so B2C model. So we plan to distribute our product through, for example, in Serbia, through local pharmacies and drugstores, and they can buy directly both products from there. And then they can use our service and they can download the mobile application from Google Play or iOS store, Apple Store. So that is the main objective for now.
More questions for Take Care?
I was listening to the panel earlier, and there's some good comments made. The team is very important. There doesn't seem to be anybody with understanding or close to the healthcare industry and working with dispensers or with drug companies. And drug companies are very interested in knowing how adherence is done. So is there any reason we don't have any health or medical people in your team?
So we have some help from people from University of Niš, from medical faculty, from Department of Pharmacy. One professor is helping us with all of our insecurities, what we didn't know about pharmacy industry and medicine in total, so we can make our product as safe as possible to use for the users. So we have help from the side, and that's it.
Thank you.
When you mentioned that you want to make your product as safe as possible, have you done any tests or performed any?
Okay, so this box right here, it's one of the prototypes, and it's like a black box. So we know what's going in, the medication, we know what's coming out. And currently we're in the development of a new mechanism which will correctly distribute the medicine to the correct user, and that mechanism is finished and it's currently testing. So we're testing it, and once we verify its safety, we will make a couple of more of them, and we will put them all together in a new product, in version 2.0, if you want to call it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I have a question. How do you plan to measure improvements in adherence?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
How do you plan to measure improvement in adherence?
Okay, so the professor from faculty that I mentioned earlier, she is the one who is actually working on user compliance and adherence, and she offered to help us when we finish our product, when we start testing it, to see the increase of adherence. But there are some papers that we also read online that say that people who tested home automated medication dispensers increased their adherence from 45% to 96%. So it's already been proven, but we wanted to prove it our own way. And also, as I said earlier, our mobile application will track users' compliance, and it will report to the user and their caregiver whether they're taking their correction as they should or not.
And just quickly, in your documentation, you mentioned like you haven't decided on the price. I was just trying to see, based on the competition, there was a big variance in the price. Like, where do you see yourselves, especially since you're targeting like this Balkan market?
So we haven't decided on the price because we want to see how much our product is going to cost us to make in mass production. And that's when we want to figure out the price, but we want to be around, if I have to guess, maybe to 300 euros or something for the dispenser.
Great, the time is up. Thank you, take care.
Thank you all.
Next one, Doctoriu.
Hello.
We'll start in a second. There's a lot of tech in here.
That's okay.
So we have finished with 1 startup and 8 more to go. I hope you're all ready.
It's one of those breathe deeply moments, isn't it?
We will make a short rotation. Sorry, Dr.
No,
Yum,
no,
you
no,
will
no,
be
no, not at all.
next a little bit later. We have bed guide. Bed guide is the next one. Get ready.
These are all the challenges that Zoom brings to us. Good luck, wet guide.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex, and I'm speaking in front of the wet guide. Veterinary services are one of the fastest moving sectors in the whole world. However, this rapid growth came with a price. Around 50% of all treated animals are in veterinary care are being mistreated. Imagine the possible implications of this, professional liability issues, eventual lawsuits, and poor animals could have a worse situation after receiving the treatment. Would you sue a veterinary that is doing this mistreatment to your animal? That is the question that we wanted to this issue to handle. We came up with the first comprehensive veterinary solution for professionals. It has Android and iOS integrations and many benefits. It allows veterinarians to have a sole focus on the animal, while our algorithmic search is doing the drug finding by a proper indication, counterindication, by a drug name. Also, it saves time. Around 1 hour of working time of veterinarian is saved by our application. Also, it boosts efficiency by automation of some activities that are time consuming and most often very stressful, like treatment dosage calculations. And also our software should eliminate error prone due to manual work. Our customer profile, our ideal customer is tech-savvy vet professional that is between 25 and 44 years old, that recognize the value of implementation of the modern technologies and innovative solutions in everyday practice. Our market size counts around 160,000 vet professionals from the UK and the US. We plan to target those two markets first. As for the revenue streams, we plan to generate revenue using 2 streams. One revenue stream is our subscription to the main software that costs $20 per month, while the other is ad placement on a limited version that is Vet Guide Home. It is meant to be used by pet owners to track the progress of the treatment. We already, saved our algorithmic search in intellectual property office. And one of the main reasons we decided to do this are competitors. The competition is inefficient and inconvenient. Their solutions are not comprehensive. They're slow and not user-friendly. That's why we decided to utilize our advantages through communication with our potential customers. We are using mixture of traditional and modern communication channels to get to the wider audience. Our milestones is to reach 30,000 red practitioners in the first 36 months. To generate around $200,000 monthly of revenue, and to reach break-even point in 19 months. This will be done with a multidisciplinary team that contains professionals from veterinary to IT and economics. Thank you. That will be all for my presentation. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Vet Guide. Let's hear the jury.
Hi, thank you, Alex. I'll jump in quickly. I'll have some comments as well as questions. But you say that in 2020 you're going to have 1,100 vet or paid users, and it's November now. Are you close to that 1,000, or whereabouts are you?
No, we are not close. The pandemic stopped everything. These were calculations that we made previously, and now we are in total, how to say, dark. We don't know how will we end. So currently we are in a phase of beta testing. We are experiencing some problems to find suitable testers. We are looking for testers around the UK, and we don't have a direct approach to them. In past, we used some how to say, direct connections, our private connections, but now due to pandemics, we are not able to travel and to present our product directly.
No, thank you. I think it's the point. The point is the point is that you've got to keep your slides updated to the current situation. You don't, you've got to say that you're chasing beta testers. And the only other comment I'd make is you've obviously been developing the product. Just give us a bit more of an understanding of your customer profile. Don't show a random persona of a vet of a tech-savvy vet. Show us some people you've been speaking to, some real beta users, to give us understanding of where you're up to. But no, thank you for that, and good competitor analysis as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
How do you plan? Yes. How do you plan to advertise your product? So maybe I missed that.
Okay. The basic idea is to use a mixture of channels. Our first idea was to have a direct approach, to have a sales force on the field, to visit vet clinics. The other are events such as exhibitions around the world. We made an event list of the exhibitions that are suitable for our product. The other types of promotions will be using digital channels with social media ads, with Google ads. And we plan to have some guerrilla marketing by using professionals forums and new social media such as Reddit, because it's great. It has some subforums, subreddits that are meant to be only for professionals, like vet professionals from London, vet professionals from UK. Those kind of groups we are targeting in this guerrilla marketing promotion.
I've seen that your differential advantage is also wet tools. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, wet tools are additional calculators for every day practice. Those are for like calculations how to get a perfect dosage for just to find the word for like I'm really sorry. Infusion, like infusion. and calculated like this, like small helping tools for everyday calculations in veterinary practice. I'm not veterinarian myself. Unfortunately, the vet doctor couldn't be with me today, so she would, Mrs. Jelena would give much better answers about those small tools. But they are not only to calculate dosage, which is our primary feature of all medicines, but also for things like infusion and stuff like this.
Great, we have time for one short question.
So, well, if I may. So what's the strength of your algorithm? Is it that there are a bunch of databases and then it's hard to sort of search them all? Is it that there's one database that for some reason it's hard to search? Like did you have to create a database? Like what's the strength the
strength is that we combine the security list, SDS lists, MSDS lists that were in open source in a government website that shows all medications that are available on some market. It's very transparent at the UK market. We pick up all those SDS lists. All components of those lists are mixed together in the algorithm. So that's how we developed this algorithm with all medications for all animals in a given country.
Perfect. Thank you, Ed Guide.
Thank you.
Next one, Baby FM.
Levo ili desno?
Okay. Hello, everyone. We are a Baby FM team. Today, we will present superior monitor system for babies. My name is Samara, and this is my colleague, Ivan.
Hello, everyone. Have you ever been wondering how the sleep slides look like when your baby has a fever? I can tell you on my own experience, and this picture would be something like me and my wife. Just in real life, I'm sleeping and she's actually awake. So we constructed the baby temperature monitoring system consists of sensor and application for mobile device. And this allows monitoring of the baby body temperature, medicine tracking, alerting, and reporting. Benefits for parents with babies are huge. Actually, first and huge benefit is a night's sleep. Parents who have children with high fevers can imagine and really knows about it. And now real-time data and notification, actually safety and reporting, and as a consequence of monitoring is physical and emotional well-being, and of course, product satisfaction the day after the fever episode. The real-time monitoring and feedback is one of the most benefits for healthcare system also, and the predictive analytics, drug interaction matrix, and of course, the first and one of the most important is the best cohort for clinical trials. Actually, there is no real clinical trial in real life concerning the baby's fever during the night and day.
And also it is good to mention that firstly, we will focus on EU market with total available size, approximately 5 million parents with babies, which means the serviceable available market will be 3 million and serviceable obtainable market for our product will be 100,000 parents with young babies. And regarding our competition, we can say that there is 5 similar products and devices on the market. One of them is already retired. One have a bad grades because they use some materials that parents don't like for a baby skin. So our advantages will be in the material which goes in contact with baby skin and sensor, cost and advanced application, of course. Regarding our cost structure, it is also standardized for development of such devices. And for the first year, we need more 4 persons for engineering part, for software, hardware development, and research and development. And also we find some benefits in Corona times.
Benefits during the Corona times would be a specific point is overheating in most of the common consequences in wearing the protective suits in the COVID centers. And we actually already contacted some COVID centers and proposed real-time monitoring of personnel in protective suits. and warning system for overheating and dehydrating that will be probably examined really soon. And this is our team: Vladimir Jeftovic, electrical engineer; Tamara Jakovljevic, PhD candidate in sensor technology; and Ivan Soldatovic, assistant professor, Faculty of Medicine, University of Belgrade. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Let's hear the jury.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the presentation. It's good effort. It's great to see you spend good time on design and format and put effort into that. You seem to rush through maybe one of the, I don't know if I missed it, but you said clinical trials are not being done effectively for babies' fevers. And that seemed to me probably the most important point in the whole presentation. Can you just elaborate on that, please?
Yes, actually, since I'm working on a faculty and have a lot of collaboration with pharma, nowadays the real life situation is just exploratory studies. So as the real drugs and real situations now, there could be a real online cohort with the small babies or small kids measuring their fevers before, after the first episode and during the whole fever or during the whole disease. And actually, the feedback would be that parents in our application had the option to enter the drugs that they use for the fever lowering. And actually, that would be a real life, real time cohort study, not just the clinically controlled study like we always see in the magazine and journal. There is no actually any publication whatsoever that we found on PubMed in that manner.
So just to follow on that, does it mean that you collect the data?
Yes, actually.
On the treatment as well as on the body temperature?
Yeah, the device is meant to using the elastic band to put on the baby with the protective cotton placement and pocket for the sensor. The sensor is connected to the mobile phone, and depending on the user rights and all agreement with the user and the team, data analysis could be prepared. Of course, it would be completely anonymous, and data analysis, including the artificial intelligent models with machine learning, could be developed for the specific drugs. Because nowadays we realized that some drugs interact with others or may be efficient, some are not, and that specifically is due to some genetics and other environmental stuff that they don't know. But this would be one of the main advantages, that we actually make a real cohort for the real clinical study in a real life.
And everyday use. And everyday use. And
everyday use, of course. And also applicable for Corona times, where the fever is the something that we frighten the world, is the worst fear for everybody today.
And also reporting of temperature episodes is also important because parents will be able to send it by mail from the application to their pediatrician. So they also have insights what was happening during the night or the day with the baby.
One short question for the end.
I just didn't understand. Have you tested your product on a real baby, and you know, what is the sensitivity of the product?
We didn't finish the testing yet. We made the prototype, and the prototype is finished. And I have agreement with the Dean of Faculty of Medicine in Belgrade about using that mobile device first on a university clinic, child hospital clinic in Tiršova. And there we could try the first testing. And the idea is actually to make the auto calibration for each person and then to use it in real life. That means that actually we don't have the true results yet, but I hope that when this first this COVID situation finish, we are capable to start the first phase actually of clinical trial.
Great, thank you, Baby FM.
Thank you.
Next one is naopako.
Okay, finally, here is Healthly. So, did you know that 60% of adult Americans have some kind of chronic illness? And around the world, 40% of population has some kind of chronic condition. So, from this group of people, we have every second person not adhering to the medication that they're taking, which is actually leading to treatment failures, hospitalizations, and also adding up to hospitalization costs and so on. So what we are doing, actually, we are here to provide one system designed to help people around the world take full command of their medication and their health data. So Healthly is some kind of personal health record management application. It's a mobile health companion, an assistant, and a diary for healthy people, people with chronic conditions and their loved ones. So we're kind of Facebook for health care, for health management. So there are a lot of features that we offer in our application. We will go through some of them. So you can create profiles for different people you care for or for yourself. So you can include your pets, your children, parents, and even patients. So for each of these profiles, you can create a lot of data, actually you can enter a lot of data regarding their health. So their chronic conditions, they can select from chronic conditions. You can create their medical therapies. You can track their health indicators. We have about 60 and more health indicators that you can track throughout time. And then, okay, doesn't go forward, doesn't go back. Anyway, so slides don't work. I don't know if you can help me with this. Okay, so I'll go without slides. So other things that we have actually, we are offering, you can track through reports all these indicators that you're tracking and therapies that you're taking throughout time. You can send it directly to the doctor that is taking care of you. And even the people who are using this for professional services, for example, nurses, they can track their own patients through this application. What we've done so far, actually, we started the company a year and a half ago, and we had some kind of MVP product for the first time, for the first several months. We tested it in Serbia on local language. We had about 3,000 users so far. And with this, we wanted to make sure that we go forward to a new market. And then now we created a new version of the application called Healthly. We have a team of 9 people right now for developers, and we have a person who is actually an initial founder, who is a backend developer and marketing expert, and we have corporate development people, and also a person from medical society, actually. So we're trying to cover all the bases and as a team. So okay. So the slides are back. So there are some other features that we have, and we can go further into details later on, but I wanted to show you that we are covering B2C market as well, which is 40% of population, animal owners and caregivers and nurses. On the B2B side, we are targeting hospitals, which they can offer the patients some kind of video conference with the doctors, pharmaceutical companies, because we have a lot of data from the patients. We are currently working with insurance companies in Serbia, and of course pharmacies, especially for the refill reminders for the medications. There are a lot of slides. I don't want to go right now. I don't have time, but we have application for Android and iOS version. About $4 is extended version, and the Pro version is about $6. So our roadmap actually is not ending here, because we are right now started the company in the US, and we are working with some companies, security companies in the US, to help us prepare for the HIPAA certificates.
You will have a little bit more time because of the technical difficulty.
Thank you.
You can go
All
through
right.
the slides.
So, we are also added medication database for the US and for Serbia, of course, and we cover different languages right now in Spanish, in Serbian, and English. And we are looking into adding a Canadian database, medication database, and the Mexican medication database, and later on European as well. So we have competition in around the world, but it's a different type of competition. So for example, they have one part of the features that we offer. Major competitors are CareZone and MediSafe. Probably you're aware of some of them. So some of our competitive advantages that we actually offer extensive set of health management tools. It's kind of not just one feature like a reminder, it's more than that. It's a mobile health management system and an assistant. So it's, okay, so this is our team. Shown that I just spoke briefly previously. And our medical design technology consultant, Haris, has experience with medication and instructing actually patients how to use their medication. And these are some investment opportunities that we have. So this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Let's hear if we have some questions for now, Paco, or healthily.
Just curious what the learnings were from your first version of the app.
I'm sorry, what was?
The learnings from your running the first version of the app.
But we had a great response actually. We had 4.8 stars on our on Play stores, both iOS and Google Store. So the users were mostly interested in using different languages and different databases. But in general, we didn't have any other kind of let's say thing that they were looking for. They were all very excited. In the people were using it all over Serbia. So even some small cities and small villages and large cities as well. We checked, of course, both genders, ages were really a variety of ages, not just older people, but we had young people as well. We have statistics of our users as well. So what we learned is actually that we wanted to offer more than just a reminder to our users, because we wanted to have them possibility to actually track their health in a pocket.
Thanks.
So just maybe a clarifying question. When you said that it is possible to track some some medical parameters, is this something, for example, that is a physician suggesting, and then this can be monitoring throughout the treatment, or?
So there are lab parameters, so different ones from blood pressure to glucose levels, everything that you can come to your mind, and we can connect to hardware as well. For example, to smartwatches and some other devices that take these measurements and put them in our actually application, and then you have everything in one place, and you can compare actually your medication therapy and your indicators together throughout a month, how they interact and how they like head-to-head report, which we can be sent to the physician remotely. And so we are adding more and more of these indicators that we can track. So you can check for yourself, for your children, for everybody that you care of.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. And I think that's a good clarifying question, because I had the imagination from the presentation that everything was manual entry. And so the fact that you're connecting to devices and hardware, I mean, it should really be very prominent in your presentation, because that's not a very easy achievement to achieve. I want to also dig deeper. I mean, also 3,000 users. There's no real reference to it in the presentation. And again, for me, I'd really like to understand what were they using, why were they using it, how are you going to adapt it. So just to probe a bit more about the connectivity, are you managing so many different disease states like heart disease and chronic or diabetes, etc.? And are you really integrating with so many devices to be able to do that? Can you clarify how much connectivity you have?
Well, we are working with we can work with different devices. We are currently not working with all of them, of course. Some of measurements need to be entered manually, of course. But as we grow, we can add more and more devices. You can connect to health application from the mobile phone, because each system has their own. For example, iOS has their own health application, and Google has their own. So once you enter the measurements there, they can be synchronized with our application, for example. But regarding the connections, it's something that it's not unique for all devices. It has to be treated, specifically for a certain device.
Have you had any interest? Because it's very interesting for pharmaceuticals. Have you had any collaboration or inquiries or discussions with any of the pharmaceutical companies?
Yes, we had actually, we were reached by a buyer recently, and we had a conversation with them because what we also offer is actually a lot of data that can be analyzed later regarding the medication taken, the connection between the medical conditions, gender, everything else. But we're taking care of the security as well, because we're not sharing the personal information, of course. We've also been approached by insurance companies in Serbia currently, and we have right now we are talking about the agreement details, but they are willing to work with us for this application.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next one, Perun.
Let us imagine it's the 1940s. You enter a room and the only thing in it is a computer the size of that same room. How would you feel if we told you we could make that computer the size of a laptop? We are Perun, and we are making a portable device called AmpLife, which is used as preparation for DNA analysis. The biggest problem for all our target markets, which include forensic investigators, veterinarians, biologists, is the inability to perform a PCR method while on terrain. This means that there is a risk of sample degradation, which can dramatically lower the results in the final version. The biggest problem for forensic investigators right now is the inability to conduct DNA analysis on the crime scene. This leaves an open spot for attorneys to dispute the evidence collected, claiming that it wasn't handled properly. Our portable thermal cycler device provides user the option of amplifying the wanted DNA sequence on the spot, be it a forest or a motel room. Unlike our competition, which provide big cumbersome machines which are intended to be placed in a room and never moved again, or portable devices which depend on external power supply and logic, we are providing a portable, fully standalone device. It has its own autonomous power supply, which can last up to 3 hours, and it has onboard logic, allowing you to change all the parameters without needing to hook it up to a computer or a laptop. It is estimated that the lab equipment industry will reach $40.86 billion by 2025. the global DNA forensic market will reach $9.87 billion by 2025, tripling in value from 2019. Our team consists of 4 members, 2 biologists, a software engineer, and an electrotechnician. We are supported by various experts in the field, such as Marko Panic, co-founder of Smart Research, as well as being supported by universities and government organizations in Serbia. To provide the best possible user experience characteristics, we are asking for an investment of 70,000 euros. With that investment, we can get the best industrial designer, necessary parts, custom components, and the working space that we need. Join us and amplify life with AmpLife. Thank you.
Does the jury have any questions for Peru?
What is the main target group for you?
Of course. In this stage, since we don't have enough funding to pursue the diagnostic certifications, which require a lot of money and time to be met, but technically aren't very complicated to be done. You basically need a log of all the activities. Our main idea is to focus on terrain biologists. After that, we can expand to forensic investigators. Any more questions?
Yeah, how will you go to market? How have you validated those terrain biologists and how will you reach them?
So the idea is we're in contact with experts from Faculty of Biology and veterinarians. The idea is to have a trial run with the terrain expeditions, and the research done with our device is supposed to be publicated. Of course, in every publication, you should mention which device was used to perform the analysis and get to the results. And that is the idea how we could spread through scientific community, which generally is focused on universities. And that is the way how we could acquire funding to pursue the forensic investigator route.
Are you sure 70,000 euros is enough to get a certified device into the market?
The 70,000 euros doesn't cover the diagnostic certification. It's only for developing the devices and getting the patent application and stuff like that. We have calculated what we need in the next year, but after that, then the diagnostic certification can be pursued, which is a lot more money and of course time.
What was the main challenge, or in other words, I could be wrong, I'm guessing this problem existed before, and so I'm just curious why nobody built, if that's how I understood it, nobody built like a portable solution with logic on it. Like what stopped others or you from doing this before?
Well, basically, there are 2 routes. One route is going to basically a device that can be scientifically used for diagnosis, which is needs to be made out of quality components, but those devices are generally used in rooms and placed and never moved. However, people have tried to make the portable devices, but they're usually made of not quality components, so they cannot be certified. The reason why nobody thought of putting something together that actually can be certified for diagnostics purposes and can't be portable, who knows?
Thanks.
More questions?
Marco?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm not a technical expert on that, far from that. What is the feasibility? Well, what is, are we absolutely sure that this is feasible, that it is possible to do and to work on field with everything on spot?
Feasible in what sense? Could you elaborate?
Technical sense that it will work to have everything in one place and working on spot without any support.
Yeah,
the
for
PCR.
Sure. For sure. I'll pass the question to my colleague, which thinks he has a really good answer to this.
Well, considering trained biologists, there are currently some direct methods for isolating DNA. So you can basically put, an entomologist can put a leg of an insect in a PCR Eppendorf tube and do the PCR protocol from that. So it's feasible to apply a PCR protocol on the spot, on terrain.
Thank you. Thank you, Perun.
Thank you very much.
The next one, Center for Laser Microscopy.
Hello, my name is Katarina and I will present to you Nemo Chip device. What is Nemo Chip? Nemo Chip is a device for disruptive diagnostics of neuroinflammatory diseases. As we can see, we all age. And beside back pain and hip pain, all we expect is healthy aging. Unfortunately, every third person might develop some kind of neurodegenerative disorder. According to the European Brain Council, this number is 179 million Europeans. If you think that's a lot, think about 1/4 of the global population by 2050 over 60 years old. 1/4. What can we do about it? Early and precise neurodiagnostics is lacking. And when the doctor sees a change in a brain scan, it's already too late. And the current therapy cannot alleviate that burden. Luckily, CLM team developed Nemo Chip device. Nemo Chip device puts all our efforts in a lab on a single lab on a chip. We created Nemo Chip device, which uses small samples of patient sera in a standalone device, and based on the results, it offers better patient stratification and diagnostics. It consequently leads to personalized treatment of various brain disorders. Our business model is B2B, and those are our end users, all of them dealing with the precise and timely neurodiagnostics. And what is our vision? Our vision is to put healthy aging in a spotlight of people's future. As we planned our way to the market, we realized that only 11% belongs to innovative neurodiagnostics. Only 11%. And half of it is available for us, since now it is the right time to perfect microfluidic in vitro neurodiagnostic systems. Our Nemo Chip paves the way from timely and precise neurodiagnostics to effective treatment of neurodegenerative disorders. Our Nemo Chip stands out as an innovative thanks to standalone system. It uses small samples of patient sera and enables versatile, precise, and fast performances to our end users. An investment will go to carefully planned R&D and business, spanning 5 years, for which we need 500K to accelerate and to be best. This is our multidisciplinary team that gathers biologists, photophysicists, and technical engineers. And this is our support. We already have support from some project fundings that graded our idea as highly implementable and commercial. And the final slide should be presenting you. But before that, now it's the right time to support healthy aging. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Let's hear the questions for CLM. They have also one team member online. Start with questions.
I have a question. What particular neurodegenerative diseases do you have in mind?
So currently we are working with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS,
and that's our main field of research. All our publications are about that. But what we plan is to expand this to other neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease, because they share some commonalities of the neuroinflammation.
Okay, do you maybe plan to do also the cerebrospinal fluid test?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
The liquid, the cerebrospinal fluid test.
Okay.
Not only.
Yeah, what we do is non-invasive. So we take the small samples of patient sera and we work with that. So we didn't go to such invasive techniques.
And what I am missing maybe in the organization of your team, there are no neurologists?
Well, actually, we have collaboration with a neurology, and that's how we obtain the samples from patients. So we work with our medical faculty in Belgrade, and that's how we have patient sera, which we test. And our studies, actually, the whole project came out of our studies and conclusions that we have and publications about ALS.
Okay, thank you.
More questions?
How close are you to market? Because it's very difficult for me to extract. You've got many, many different types of customers. You've got a whole pathway. I didn't see the last slide properly. How far are you from your first actual industrial and medical execution, implementation, and clinical, and perhaps even a clinical trial?
Yeah, so if I understood the question correctly, you're asking about our initial users, right? Or did I miss?
Yeah, how far, what's your pathway to commercialization? How far away are you from getting into hospitals and actual end users?
So actually we are now at the level of a prototype. Let's say we still need to do beta testing on a small, let's say make a small batch of devices and do pilot tests in clinics mostly, and maybe some research centers. So this is the current level we have. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
3 years at least.
Could you repeat one more time? We could not hear.
What would be the main benefit for clinics to use your device?
So the main benefit, as we put on this slide, is that our device uses really small samples of patient sera. That's for the start. It's a standalone device. It fits on a lab on a chip, right? So we are developing also machine learning algorithms to analyze everything. So clinicians don't have to know precisely all the physiology behind the response. But once we calibrate it, this is giving us opportunity to have fast measurement, versatile measurement for various brain disorders, and also to have the precise measurement to say, for example, if this sample is coming from the healthy person or this sample is coming from someone who might develop later some signs of neurological disorder or brain disorder, or etc.
So as far as I know, this is still not known. So this will have to be the subject of extensive clinical trials to see the prognostic or predictive or diagnostic value of these parameters.
Yes, we definitely need to do clinical studies, but we have a lot of data on the effects and physiology responses done by these immunoglobulins. We have published that, and we have connected that to the symptoms of patients that we got from neurological clinics. But definitely, yes, we have. We did this kind of preclinical studies, but we need to do more clinical studies to actually better perfect our software that should do a better segregation of patients.
Perfect. Thank you, CLM. I see GeoHip.
Hello? Do you hear me? Is it okay? Okay, fine. So I'm in front of the IC GearHip team. Our team tries to make some changes in the hip implant replacements to more personalize it to individual user. Pointer. No, check out. Sorry. First, the total hip replacement implants are used to replace the degenerative hip joints, and the implants are most prone to failure by loosening, dislocation, or wear of material. But most usual cases, the fatigue due to type of the everyday activities regular person has. So with walking cycles, you have periods of loading and unloading, and it causes eventual failure by fatigue. So on the picture to the right, you see how a fatigued implant looks like. It breaks in half. So the hip implant sometimes can be in one piece or modular with few components. But the main aspect of fatigue is the stem part, the long part which goes into the femur bone, and it carries the highest loads of the implant. Our idea is to maybe enhance or shorten the angle movement of the hip joint. Well, hip joints are used for a vast variety of patients which have different type of activities from younger to the older patients, and not every patient, not every hip implant is good for all types of patients. So we've seen that 1.5% of the total global population has some form of joint disease. 33% of that population is younger than 65 years of age. The global market is estimated at 7.18 billion in 2018, but by 2026, the yield will be about 46%. So that is estimated that the market will increase to $10.5 billion. And most of that market is in the range of total hip replacements. Just video by video, open them. So on the picture to the left, you see the 3D scanning of a regular hip implant. That is, what we try to do is to scan the structure, then model it, and use those models for numerical simulation to see the places which have highest stress states, and then to make a crack onto those places, defects, which will eventually cause the failure from that place. We can model the structure, see for how many cycles the structure with particular loading cycles. So we can have a clear picture of how long will the implant last for a particular patient, for his particular needs, for particular loads that will be applied on his structure. So just to point out that the custom-made implants will soon become a necessity in global healthcare systems. So after 3D scanning and CAD modeling and finding the perfect structure for the individual patient, then comes the additive manufacturing of those parts. In the first initial step, we'll make wax molds, and from them we'll cast a titanium implant for a particular alloy used in medical sector. Then if the whole story develops, we'll step up to metal 3D printing, directly manufacturing custom-made implants. So the companies in the market include 3D systems, which also do 3D scanning, but have their sector in healthcare systems. There is also a Materialize company based in Belgium, but the closest one to our region is the Ortho-Baltic in Kaunas, Lithuania, established at 2001. It has 100 million income just in 2016, so it is the company can rise even in the eastern parts of Europe. Also, those big firms like 3D Systems have partners from different parts of the world. For example, Coal Plant in Israel and Antleron in Belgium. What they have different sectors. They have different areas of doing so. But what is similar to Coal Plant and Antleron, they try to make individual products to a individual patient. So just a step up to personalized medicine. We have, our team has a great relation with the Innovation Center of the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering and faculties of Mechanical Engineering in Belgrade, Maribor and Osijek. Also, we cooperate with two private companies as 3D Republic and Solvins for additive manufacturing. Okay. Just a few seconds for other slides. Okay. What we do, we have a 3D scanner and a 3D printer dedicated for this type of work. We have dedicated software for CAD modeling and FEM analysis. We have a few, in our investment table, we show few steps we'll take after each 6 months when we proceed in our company. Then by first, we want to collaborate with domestic clinics, hospitals, and centers and institution of National Health Insurance Fund. So our implant will, our personalized implant will cost about 2,000 euros, which is far less than any type of product in the world. So the first will be working in the Southeast European region, and maybe expand if all goes well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your attention.
Great. I will like to ask the jury to continue with questions now.
Just to clarify, is your product an equivalent to Ortho-Baltic or 3D Systems, etc., or is it something different?
To 3D Systems Materialize, yes, and to Ortho-Baltic also. So they make personalized implants.
So you're the same thing as them. You're similar to them. They could do what you do quite easily.
We can simulate our structure with a crack, with a defect. We also use an XFEM analysis. That is a step up, considering all the three mentioned firms.
So can you protect yourselves from them copying you in some way? What's the advantage? Is it a patent? Is it some sort of protection you can have?
If I understood you correctly, every implant is prone to failure and will fail eventually in 10, 20, 25 years of time. That is just inevitable. But our solution is to make an adequate implant, which will give maybe for younger patients a wider angle of movement, so the younger patients can play sports with no deformality, with no constraints.
Do you have, what are the regulatory requirements for your product?
We are just at the beginning, so this is just in the form of an idea, really. By regulation, we will use a dedicated titanium alloy implants for titanium alloys for used in medical, for fabrication of implants.
I was thinking more referring to the, the regulatory requirements for the registration. Do you think that you need to do the registration of this product, to do the clinical trials and...
Start from research onwards. So all those firms mentioned are still in the research. So this is a step up and it will come eventually, but no, we didn't consider any healthcare regulatives.
Do you have orthopedic surgeons on board?
No, we don't have.
Thank you.
And have you discussed with them about your products, or have you discussed with the drug agency or any other stakeholder in Serbian market?
No, we haven't.
Great, thank you so much, ICG HIP.
Thank you.
Just attention to all the teams. We ask you to keep to 3 minutes. This is the rule for all the teams. So please be ready for your pitches before the end of the previous pitch. Thank you.
So next one, Gastrogen.
Do you know that more than 20% of world population has functional dyspepsia, and that only 20% of those patients ever become free of symptoms? This gastrointestinal disorder has profound impact on the patient's life quality, economics, and society. According to our vision, synergy of science, nature, and innovations, we have created Gastrogen. Gastrogen is an innovative dietary supplement in the form of powder that contains gentian extract, olive oil, and algae nuts. And this product effectively relieves symptoms of functional dyspepsia, while it is very comfortable for use and production is cost-effective. Happily, the digestive supplement market is rapidly growing, and the market value is more than 7.5 billion euros. Functional dyspepsia is an emerging issue, so we have competitors. However, Gastrogen has unique competitive advantage, not yet found on the market. Gastrogen formulation is based on rational phytotherapy, clinical evidences, and innovative production process that enables targeted and prolonged release in the stomach. Such product has higher efficiency and safety, while taste is masked and frequency of dosing is reduced. We have made prototype in 2019. Now we are in process of technology transfer and market research, and we need investment and cooperation for marketing and production activities. And Gastrogen will be on Serbian and neighboring markets in 2021. In 2022, our main focus will be on European market. And finally, in 2025, our product will be on USA market. And it is estimated that we will have more than 50,000 customers and total annual revenue will be more than 1.5 million euros. We are going with two business models, B2B oriented to our health supplement distributors and B2C by direct selling from the website of our company. Marketing strategy is oriented to our healthcare professionals, especially early adopters and general public. Gastrogen team is highly motivated, educated, and experienced. Members of our team were included in the development of more than 20 herbal products on the Serbian and neighboring market, and also in the pharmaceutics developed on the European market. Gastrogen is innovative and effective product suitable for every market, and we need investment and cooperation for marketing and production activities, and we will bring relief and comfort to the life of patients with functional dyspepsia. Thank you.
Great. Let's hear the questions for Gastrogen.
Oh, hi. Thank you for the presentation. My question is, you've got quite a simple formulation, it seems. It must be more complicated than that. But I just don't see anything about efficacy or how proprietary and protectable it is or anything like that. Can you give us a bit more information on that, please?
So regarding the efficacy, actually this is based on already known information regarding the activities of gentian extract, olive oil, and alginates. So it's already known, and gentian extract has been recommended for treatment of such disorders. Our product would be in the form of a dietary supplement, so it's not a medicine, it would be a dietary supplement.
And we are providing a prolonged release in the stomach. So the active ingredient would be released at the targeted site of action for the prolonged time. So we are expecting to achieve better efficacy. We are planning, once the product is on the market, to conduct a survey of satisfaction of consumers, actually to have confirmation of our already known effects of the product. Regarding the intellectual property, if I understood you correctly, we are also in the process of making and submitting the proposal for our protection of authorship rights, because we are coming from the two institutions. Actually, the company would be a spin-off of our institutions.
More questions?
What is the main advantage versus existing gentian extracts at the market?
This product is a special formulation that enables targeted and prolonged release. There is no such product on the market, and for example, gentian extract has a very short time in the stomach at the place of action. By this formulation, we can put the extract in the stomach for a prolonged time, and therefore efficacy is improved.
And if I may add, it's also in the powder form. The formulations which are on the market are in the liquid form. So powder form is much more suitable. This is a prototype of the final product.
Yes, and
so we have
we have pilot.
A box with 30 powders, and it's very convenient for administration. You just dissolve it in a glass of water and drink it. So it's more stable and more suitable than the liquid forms which are on the market.
We have time for one more question. If there is one. No, let's go next. Ivana?
Thank you, GastroGen. So last but not least, and also second time on the stage today, Doctorium.
So let's hope the second time is a charm, right? Okay. Should we try? Is it working? Can you see the presentation? Ta-da! Actually works. Okay, perfect. Works. So, Doctorium is a software solution based around providing a better communication service, both for the patients and for the physicians. It is built around the proprietary algorithm system embedded into a mobile application and into something we call the system, surrounding an electronic healthcare record, which is fully GDPR compliant and encrypted. It is working through a simple three-step process for the patient. They simply sign up for the application, they'll download it, and then they go through these three simple steps, which means they either enter their symptoms or go through a triage through which they're guided with our proprietary algorithm. They choose the practice where they would like to make an appointment, and they actually schedule it at the end. Now, if you didn't know, we're currently in a COVID pandemic. I'm not wearing a mask, so that's probably not right. But we use that same thing in proprietary algorithm to develop a module inside Doctorium, which is actually used for triage and prevention again. And it takes these exact three steps again. You choose the symptoms that you have inside, and then the algorithm will tell you whether you are suspect of being positive or you just simply need to take preventative measures. Why this is important? We are taking another step in prevention. Basically, with this case of patient being positive, in case that the patient has visited a medical practice in the Doctorium system 2 weeks prior to this diagnosis, the practice will be also notified that they had a COVID positive patient, indicating that they need to take additional measures. Over this period, we've seen telemedicine grow incredibly, and the adoption of medicine by clinics, insurances, and patients have been tremendous. So we've developed a telemedicine module inside Doctorium. You don't need another application. You don't need anything more. You simply activate another appointment, which is based around a telemedicine solution. And immediately the doctor can communicate with the patient, input all of the relevant data, and it will be available by the end of the conversation. It will be available both for the patient and for the physician. And for the next year, we're focusing mostly on the Southeast European market. It's primarily the ex-Yugoslavian countries, and then we'll be spreading into Europe in 2022. That market is 26 million people right now, with about 4 million patients per year. And we have around 300,000 users of various health apps. But only about 8% of these people actually use health apps to make an appointment with a physician or keep track of their electronic health records. So there is an ample opportunity and a general need for a service such as this. So our business model is actually built around providing the application for free to patients forever. The actual subscriptions come from the clinics, private practices, and hospitals on a monthly basis. And we also engaged with a couple of insurances here in Serbia, which are actually European leading insurances that we are finishing our negotiations with. So we have a 12-strong team in the field right now disseminating the message of Doctorium, showing people how Doctorium actually works. And we are actually tomorrow finalizing a deal with one of the insurances concerning providing this service to their clients. Now, our competitors are vast and varied, and even in our local market. But one of the main points that I'd like to point out is none of them have this integration and bundling that we are actually providing. So they don't have all of these 10 points. Some have 1 or 2, some have none. And we have seen our activities grow throughout the year. It's been a little bit slower than we actually envisaged. The pandemic has taken its toll on all of us, but it has grown significantly. And we have around 20,000 activities by September and around 1,500 monthly users. We are looking to finish this year with a very small revenue because we have provided this service entirely for free to everyone. So it will be a very small income, but 2021 is looking to be a far better year for us, especially since we'll be present in about 6 different markets. What we are raising the funds for is to adapt Doctorium to local market languages and regulations, and also having the team and technical support in place. The idea behind Doctorium and the vision is that we provide the patient with empowerment and giving them an opportunity to have hands-on with their health. And by not losing any of this extremely valuable data, provide the physicians and driving in that way much better healthcare. We are actually even developing an additional part of Doctorium, which is going to be serving the clinical trial community. This is our team. We are composed of physicians. I'm a physician myself, and my co-founder Boris as well, who's here in the audience. And we have some people from the IT sector. Of course, Philip is our developer, and we have people that are in the tech support and legal. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's hear the questions from the jury. Hello.
Hey, thanks. Couple questions. So regarding branding, are you planning to brand yourself as Doctorium for like across the different providers or like insurance companies, hospitals, or like you have branding? Would you have branding for each? And then 2, if you're say working for a insurance company that has multiple hospitals, how do you deal with possibly different hospitals having a different level of like the technology advanced services they provide in terms of booking and so on?
2 beautiful questions. Thank you. So first of all, we've done our research, and we are in the process of actually trademarking Doctorium as a brand itself. However, we are able to provide this as a completely standalone solution or a custom-made solution, if you would like to call it that, a white label for anybody that is actually interested. At the end, the whole system will still be integrated. The idea is that we provide patients with an integrated solution for keeping all of their health records. So it doesn't matter if the patient came to see me and then after that went to see Boris, they would still have a continuation of all of their health records embedded in that same system. And as concerns the bigger and even smaller clinics and hospitals, actually, that's why we are talking to insurances. They are facing a lot of overbilling by these enormous systems. So what they want to do is actually engage these issues with them in a way so that Doctorium is integrated and we have an open API. So what we need is goodwill from them to get integrated. So right now, our primary focus, if we're talking about the 12 people that we are with in the field, is these smaller clinics and smaller practices, and we are approaching them individually so as to make sure that we have as broad a network as possible. And then through insurances, we will be engaging these bigger systems that we have in our country and, of course, abroad.
More questions? Last chance. Perfect, then thank you.
Thank you, thank you very much.
Great session. Congratulations to all the startups, and I'm looking forward to the final decision. Stasha.
Yeah, hi everyone again. Thank you to all the startups. Very well done. It was a pleasure to hear those fantastic ideas and hear further comments from the jury. Now it is time for our second keynote speaker and the last speaker for the day. Her name is Kelly Butterworth. She's a policy strategy leader for personalized healthcare at Roche in Basel. And Kelly will share with us her opinion about the importance of policy changes to enable innovation, critical role of collaboration, and the steps that Roche is undertaking to basically make better future patient journeys each day. We thank Roche one more time for sponsoring the Imagine If event and for bringing many fantastic professionals to work with our startups and share their knowledge and skills with us. Kelly, the stage is yours. Kelly, we cannot hear you.
Unmute. Yes. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Excellent. So now I have to just figure out how to, I'm not sharing my screen, I don't think, right?
We can see your desktop. So you are sharing the screen.
So I just need to do presentation mode. And are you seeing my slides as normal?
Yes, yes, this is better, yeah.
Excellent. So sorry about that. But Stasha, thank you so much for having me. I've been online since the beginning, and so I've enjoyed each and every one of the presentations, and I congratulate each of the pitch teams for incredible, innovative projects. So I'm sure it's a hard choice by the judges, but I'm sure that you, as I heard earlier, you're all winners already. So thank you for having me. As Stasha mentioned, my name is Kelly Butterworth, and I am representing Hoffmann La Roche's global office. I am based in Basel, Switzerland, and my core focus is policy change, government policy change that will enable a data-driven healthcare system future. So I'm going to talk to you today about 3 core elements of that future, and I'll start off by defining Roche's vision of that data-driven future, and the terminology that we use is personalized healthcare. And I'll give you a little bit more about what we mean by that. I'm going to reinforce what we heard from the earlier panelists and the earlier keynote around the critical role of collaboration. And I'll do that by providing 3 examples, 2 Roche examples and 1 non-Roche example. And then I just want to end on another element that we touched on a little bit earlier, which is really the importance of creating sustainable policy change that's going to enable this innovation. So as I think about how this connects to the startup pitches, I would encourage each of those teams to really think about the carry-on sort of scaling up and policy change impact that each of their products could either generate evidence for, or that would need to be changed in order for those projects to become reality. So that's the flow. And let me start with this very blurry, hard to see image. So this represents the past, when our view of patients and patient journeys was not as clear as it could be. Of course, we've made incredible progress in personalized care, and over the past couple of decades, we've brought targeted therapies, companion diagnostics, and more to the health system. And those advancements have relied really on traditional data capture and research and development mechanisms. So I'd like everyone to really imagine the progress we could make if we had a greater, deeper understanding of patients and their diseases. And the great news is we have the enabling technology that we can use now to amplify scientific advances and really redefine personalized care, really moving from a world where we've been treating segments of patient populations to a world where we can truly treat individualized patients with personalized solutions. The key to that transformation, to moving to this future, is data. A new wave of data, vast troves of data from multiple sources, data that is both deep and rich, that comes from high resolution tools like comprehensive genomic profiling, digital pathology, that comes from the digital tools and devices that many of you just pitched about, and data that really links outcomes over time. So longitudinal data will be absolutely critical. Now, of course, in the pharma sector and in other sectors, we've always used data to inform our work, but I just think it's interesting because we're really now living in a world in which there's no comparison to the data we have today with what we've had in the past. So it really is an exciting moment. The result, as we see it, in terms of the ability to use this data, is going to be a much clearer, sharper view of the patients, of patient disease, of their journey along with the disease over time, and the ability to offer precise care that's right for a particular patient, that gives them the best possible chance of a good outcome. And really, we're looking at a new era for healthcare and for personalized care specifically. So hopefully that grounds you in the context of what we can achieve if we come together. As I mentioned, I want to give a little bit more of a detailed description of how we at Roche at least define this data-driven healthcare system, this personalized healthcare system. And if we think about the past, we've really moved on now from the days when we relied only on clinical trial data. And of course, clinical trial data remains the gold standard for evidence generation, but it does, of course, have shortcomings. It doesn't provide us with information on how medicines are performing in the real world outside of those highly controlled settings. So we see a world in which better integration, use, and sharing of clinical data with genomic data, with data from electronic health records, with real-world data captured from mobile apps and devices can come together in an aggregate form, and we refer to that as meaningful data at scale. And this meaningful data at scale really has the potential to address these healthcare challenges that we face: unsustainable costs in the system, persistent inefficiencies in healthcare delivery, and uneven and unequal progress in improving patient outcomes, not just within countries, but across borders and outside of countries in different regions. So we see this future phase as bringing together the data with our ability to synthesize using artificial intelligence and learn from the data sets in what will result in new developments in healthcare based on, again, the unprecedented sort of detailed understanding of patients and their disease. So I think it's safe to say that as a collective, we are all fast forwarding to this future state where data and analytics are really transforming care. So what does that mean for an individual patient's journey? And at Roche, a core part of our business is the oncology patient journey. So this is sort of set in the foundation of a future oncology patient journey. But the bottom line is that the data is the foundation of this future patient journey. And it's both generated at every step in the journey and also leveraged at every step in the journey. So it really is a virtuous cycle of data collection and use. So if we think about the start of the patient journey, the availability of broader, deeper data into disease biology and better defined patient populations, for example, based on genomic drivers of disease, this is going to facilitate early, more accurate, and timely diagnosis. So clearly a benefit to that stage of the patient journey. With that as the starting point, the data can contribute to a personalized care plan for each patient, using more effective, efficient clinical decision-making, things like molecular tumor boards that can help healthcare providers navigate complex world of research and literature, and ultimately empowering the patient to be much more closely involved in important treatment decisions and sort of personalized preferred treatment pathways. With that in mind, the availability of more data from these sources that I've been talking about is going to really provide more insight into safety, efficacy, and the value. We've touched a little bit on value earlier. The value of these treatments and through earlier identification of the right treatment for each patient will ultimately, for the whole system, enable faster access to personalized therapies and more than therapies, faster access to personalized tools like digital tech solutions, software as medical devices, and so on. So closing the loop of the patient journey, there's advances in technology, for example, the apps, the wearable devices, a lot of what you guys have been pitching about today are going to make it easier for patients to self-manage their disease, while also providing the opportunity for feeding real-world insight back into this loop and feeding that insight back into the patient experience in the clinic. So I think a lot of what the pitches were based on today would really closely fit into this better monitoring of disease segment of the patient journey. And we can look beyond the impact on the patient. I think taken together, it's quite obvious that beyond better outcomes for patients, we can also really work to reduce unnecessary costs in the system or reallocate costs in the system to reduce inefficiencies and really ultimately sort of contribute to improved sustainability of the overall system. So again, a really exciting time. So I should add, perhaps before going off of this slide, that we're not quite there at this patient journey yet, and it's going to take a lot to realize these benefits, and it's going to take us collectively coming together to upgrade data collection, data sharing, interoperability, quality of data, ultimately upgrading the infrastructure and the governance that sits behind health systems and health allocation. And so we have to build the right personalized healthcare ecosystem to support this future patient journey. And so I just want to provide this somewhat out of context analogy that we often talk about at Roche. And this is based on the development of the first coast-to-coast highway in the United States. So this is back in the 1920s. And there's a gentleman named Carl Fisher, who was an automobile parts executive. And he had this genius plan to build a highway that stretched from the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States. He called it the Lincoln Highway. And his idea was that the road would be a great example of the power of roads and the value of cars that drive on them. So he sought financing support. And he ended up going and securing primary financiers from auto manufacturers like General Motors in the US and Packard and Goodyear Tire, all big players at the time. And the beauty of the plan was that they didn't insist that only their cars and tires would be used on the highway. The point was not to build infrastructure that competed with other auto manufacturers. The point was to build the ecosystem, the foundation necessary to show the value of cars and to really bring all of the players on equal footing that they could take advantage of that infrastructure. And I think, while clearly not related to healthcare, I think there really is an analogy to the way we have to come together collectively to build the infrastructure, build the ecosystem that will support this data-driven future. So this is going to take policymakers, the providers, academia, patients, consumers, civil society, industry, and by industry, I mean, of course, traditional big pharma, smaller companies, startups, tech industry, anyone who's interested in this data-driven future has a stake in building this ecosystem. So that's how we at Roche are operating. We really, it's a win-win scenario for every stakeholder if we can sort of bring the playing field up to support all of us with this infrastructure. So with that in mind, we at Roche, through our country offices, like our Serbian office, we have been experimenting and standing up various, let's say, pilots or experiments to show that this healthcare ecosystem can support a data-driven future. So I want to highlight just 2 Roche examples and then an external example of the kind of collaboration and the kind of innovation that we can bring when we're working together. I just want to be really clear that The two Roche examples that I will highlight are learning interventions. These are experiments, they're in progress. We are generating the evidence that will be compelling to the policymakers, to other stakeholders, that will show the value of these ecosystems. And I say that because I don't want them to be seen as copy-paste opportunities. You can't simply pick up what we're doing in Croatia and apply that to Serbia or to other countries. The evidence, the insights, the learnings will certainly apply and can be mined for relevancies across borders, but every ecosystem and every market, of course, is so different that it's really important to not think about these solutions as one size fits all. So that's just a little caveat before I talk about what this example is. So I'm going to use this example of how Roche is collaborating with the government, the Ministry of Health in Croatia. For a little bit of context, as some people may know, Croatia has had one of the highest cancer mortality rates in Europe. The good news is that the Croatian government several years ago has prioritized a reduction in cancer mortality rates via enabling precision medicine and data-driven healthcare. So recognizing that we had some mutual objectives in this country, our local office there collaborated with the Ministry of Health and, importantly, with patient groups to stand up the elements of a data-driven ecosystem for cancer patients. That required Roche bringing to the table knowledge, funding, some technology, but more importantly, it requires the Ministry of Health to commit to establishing certain elements in the health system. And you see those here. They've committed to the generation of an oncology database that will collect and analyze genomic profiling data and real-world data from that genomic profiling. In addition, there's a commitment for a PHC, a personalized healthcare center of excellence, that will perform and conduct the genomic profiling nationally for all newly diagnosed cancer patients. In addition, the health system has committed to using a molecular tumor board that would help facilitate the decision-making for these complex treatment decisions on the basis of the data generated in from the genomic profiling and captured in the oncology database. And none of those elements would actually have any impact on patients at all if there weren't more dedicated funding from the national payer ecosystem to ensure patient access to the profiling and to the therapy. So as you can see, this example is an example and quite a unique one where the government recognized that all of the elements need to be put in place simultaneously in order for this learning ecosystem to be implemented. So there's a lot of hope and promise from this. As I said, this is in progress, and it didn't happen overnight. This is the result of a long-standing relationship and partnership between Roche and the Croatian government. So there was a level of trust that has been cultivated over years. And the patient advocacy groups, as I mentioned earlier, really played an important role in simply communicating and increasing the awareness of the need and the patient benefit that will ultimately be realized from this project. So if people have questions or want to see more information, there are some publicly available documents regarding this project, and we'd be happy to share those in response to the conversation. The second example that I'd like to highlight is a little bit different. This is across the world in Canada, where this is more of an example of a multi-stakeholder collaboration to achieve data sharing and policy change. So it's quite interesting here. The Canadian government a couple years ago had put out a call for proposals for innovation in healthcare. So another example of where you might secure investment funds. In response to this call, Roche began working with a clinical trials group and tech companies with the idea to build an integrated data network that could support research questions from multiple players. In the end, they actually did not secure they were not the winning pitch. So hopefully there's a lesson here as well, that don't give up on your ideas. But they had generated so much interest from the players at the table that they decided to adapt their approach and implement it independently of the government support in a phased way. So this ended up being these players came together to create a not-for-profit. That not-for-profit is called the Canadian Personalized Healthcare Innovation Network. Members are from big pharma, startups, tech, academia, across the board. Each of the members brings whatever tangible asset they can to the table. So funding, knowledge, and importantly, de-identified data. Members can then use the de-identified data to answer individual company-specific research questions. There's some difficulty in how you think about sharing this kind of data, and that was touched on in the first keynote. The solution to some of the challenges in Canada here was that the data is not stored centrally, but the data remains at each of the members' locations. So each of the members remains a custodian of their data. And each of the other members can send queries to a staging area that, again, remains at the custodian's location. And then they can use the results of that query to conduct their research projects and to publish the results and to share the results. So it's a really interesting way of sharing data among competitors in some cases. And what's interesting, too, is that they realized that this is not necessarily a sustainable solution. This is one example of a solution, but together the members then use the evidence of value creation from this data sharing to advocate for national and provincial policy change that will really result in more and more people being able to share data, having that data be interoperable, and really contribute to much broader scalable health system change. So I think, I know CFIN also has a publicly available website in Canada, and you can certainly learn more about how they've implemented their project if you're interested. And let me just highlight one non-Roche example, and I thought this had quite a bit of relevancy since we're all, of course, living through a global pandemic. And I think a lot of you could relate to this particular challenge. And this comes specifically from China, where China implemented in very short order a cloud-based system for surveillance and control of COVID-19. Of course, the context here is simply that the pressure on the health system due to the pandemic and the fact that traditional surveillance systems were really limited in their timeliness and scalability to deal with this incredible outbreak. So the Chinese government came together with academia in Hubei province in Hangzhou, and they created a Hangzhou hybrid system, is what they call their platform for surveillance and control. And the elements here are that they are integrating data from traditional sources, case reports, diagnostic labs, with non-traditional sources. So, and by that we mean electronic medical records, and in this case, social media on citizens' mobile devices. And bringing this data together, they were able to conduct some real-time acquisition and analysis of that data on the symptoms, people's contact history, their social behavior, and the physical environment. And this was resulting in a stronger chain of control and decision-making, particularly in this province for Hangzhou. The reality is we've all seen advances in data sharing and data interoperability as a response to the pandemic. And I think there's really a lot we can learn and a lot we can mine for ideas for which of these advances should be sustainable, that we should implement beyond the pandemic in support of a broader healthcare system. And of course, there's some advances that we may not want to become sustainable. Some countries, of course, have applied a bit more of a rigorous control process and perhaps have exploited privacy concerns. And those are things that we would not want to see continue. So it's important that we really see what's working and what makes sense as a result of the pandemic. So I'm coming to my conclusion. I just want to say that in order for experiments and in order for the ecosystem to be in place, this future ecosystem, it's critical that public policy public attitudes, behaviors, and mindsets are shifted. So there's a lot of education that we all have to do to bring people who aren't technical experts in this data-driven health system, to bring them up to speed on the potential and the value, and compel them to act, in some cases, shifting decision-making pathways. The infrastructure, laws, guidance, standards, financial investments are all going to be essential. At Roche, we define 4 categories of policy area that we think will advance personalized healthcare. The big buckets are data sharing. So that's the infrastructure that will enable large-scale collection, storage, and sharing while protecting personal data, of course. The second area is use of that data. So we would advocate for fit for purpose data quality standards, real world data in regulatory and reimbursement decision-making, and use of the data from the digital tech, the wearables and the sensors to feed into those decision pathways. We are advocating for adoption of personalized care. So that's the infrastructure for the diagnostics piece, and regulatory pathways, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with, for new digital tech and what we sometimes call software as a medical device. And finally, and really meaningfully, all of that ladders up to a change in health system national strategies. So we really want to see national health plans, cancer control plans, digital health plans that really address the enablers of this future system, and also importantly, exchange best practices between countries, have models of what good looks like. One final slide, and I'm afraid I've gone over my time just a little bit. We at Roche are absolutely committed to collaboration in this area. One example of that, and something that anyone on this session can benefit from, is a framework that we've co-created with external experts. So we wanted to set out a point of view on what good looks like in relation to this future PHC policy ecosystem. In order to do that, we looked at 80 national healthcare plans from around the world, and we took a deep dive into those plans and narrowed down 50 elements that we thought would together sort of illustrate the right elements to have in place for a data-driven health system. And those 50 elements are categorized in 4 buckets: planning and enablers of the system, the health information and IT infrastructure, health services, and health products. And the 11 experts have drafted a consensus document that really explains their point of view on why this framework makes sense. And this framework is available publicly. So if Stasha shares these slides, you can click on this link and it takes you to an external website where you can see the framework. We've put this framework now in front of external stakeholders to drive dialogue. And in fact, in Romania, the national government has used the framework as a frame for a personalized healthcare chapter in their new national health plan, which they are writing right now. So we are using this to, again, collaborate to identify areas of mutual interest and value. And I invite anyone to take a look and connect with either Roche or any of the 11 experts who contributed to it. So that is my last slide. I want to say thank you so much. And if we have a minute or two for questions, Stasha, you tell me if that makes sense.
Hi, Kelly. Yes, of course. Thank you so much for this fantastic presentation. And again, for your time and willingness to share your experience in Roche for over how many years you have been part of. So we have one question from Pavle. He's asking, how was the project example with Croatia funded? I guess this is the interest because we are from the same region. And I guess, as you mentioned already, the model that worked in Croatia can be a bit modified and then implemented in Serbia. So maybe a bit more on that.
Yeah, and I'm not the person who stood that project up, and so I am happy to go gather more information. But in this case, the government has committed quite a bit of the resourcing, and I think that's what's really unique in this case. Roche is providing some of the technology for the genomic profiling, of course, so in terms of the cost of that technology, in terms of implementation, so that's a big part of it as well. But ultimately, it is the government recognizing that, spending its GDP on health is an investment separate from everything else, and that they've recognized the value of that investment. So I can get more detail and share that with Stasha to get an answer, but that's my short answer.
So Kelly, is that the government initiating this whole mechanism, or is it Roche being interested in Croatia, for example, as a good ecosystem, which has potential to grow? How does that work?
So that's an excellent question, and I think this is exactly why this is not a copy and paste solution. So what we do is our country offices really look for opportunities, right? And in this case, the government had already, independently of Roche or anyone, prioritized the reduction of cancer mortality, right? So this was years of advocacy from patient groups starting in the early to mid 2000s that have been, highlighting the rates of mortality and highlighting that as compared to neighboring countries, and explaining and advocating for a prioritization at the national government level. So in this case, the national government had prioritized this. And so Roche approached with the idea to say, we have some technology and we have this vision of a data-driven ecosystem that could be a solution. So I think it's really important for anyone who's trying to achieve policy change in this area to frame the policy solution as a solution to whatever the stakeholders' drivers and motivations are, right? So it doesn't have to be that a government is focused on reduction of mortality. It could be that a government is, their primary driver is cost containment, or they're in the health system, or their primary driver, depending on what region you're in, it could be sustainable development goals and other non-communicable diseases. So it could be more cardiovascular focus area. So it's really important to do your stakeholder identification, really understand what drives some of these decision makers, and frame your solution, your tech solution, as a solution to someone else's problem. I think that's something that we as Roche have learned quite a bit about along the way.
Yeah, I think it's important to show that we are fertile ground for innovations to grow, and of course, in that way, we will attract more investors, more collaborations, etc. And we have additional question to this topic. Does Roche maybe have a way to educate stakeholders? Do you have any kind of collaboration with them on their road to grow?
Absolutely. So we realize that, as I mentioned earlier, to achieve this future, there's a lot of education that has to take place. I mean, we're asking traditional healthcare stakeholders to build their capacity in understanding, technical relationships of data and infrastructure and things that were not what we were all trained in if we're in the health sector. So there's internal and external education that we're doing. We do that through traditional ways. So, you'll see sessions and such at things like the European Cancer conferences and medical society conferences. We have some PHC, personalized healthcare related curriculum that we put through those conferences. We also sponsor external entities in doing their own education. So a really interesting mission-driven organization that we're working with now is called the Open Data Institute. And this is an organization that is not a health expertise organization, it's a data expertise organization, data policy, data infrastructure. And so we're working with them to bring together the concepts of data improving health and to roll out some educational opportunities. So for example, next week, they have their flagship summit called the Open Data Institute Summit, and there will be content on personalized healthcare integrated into that session. So we partner a lot on that in countries and regionally and globally. And I would encourage anyone who's interested in that to reach out to Sasha from Roche Serbia, who's on this call, and a judge, and or myself, and we can provide more specific detail. But we do see ourselves as playing that role quite a bit.
Fantastic. And maybe one last question for you, Kelly, from Nick Houseby. In terms of creating ecosystem, there comes a point at which many tests and personalized data can be used by insurance companies in their risk profiling for individuals. What is Raj doing to ensure that there is not going to be an issue whereby those at a high inherited risk or by somatic mutation are discriminated against? And are the governments aware of this potential, and what are they saying about it?
Okay, so this is probably a little bit beyond my area of expertise, and let me take that from, so we do work with insurance companies, private and public, of course, and I don't know if I can answer explicitly what we're doing to ensure that that high risk is not a risk for the patients in terms of their coverage. What I can say is that at the foundation of anything we're doing when we're talking about data sharing, we adhere to fair data principles, right? So the principles of anonymization, pseudo-anonymization, and de-identification of data when we're sharing it, we put into place all the right regulations and quality controls to ensure that. Now, I think the question is a little bit different, and I think a lot of countries would be struggling with, how do we make sure that people aren't being exploited or perhaps decisions are being made differently based on all of this new information sharing. So yeah, that's a real issue. And I think, this is about shaping the policies and the pathways that we're going to ensure that the patients benefit, the health system benefits, and that it's a win-win. So there's, I don't think any player has an interest in sort of being perceived as not coming to the table with the right motivations and the right intentions. So and I think, one of Roche's goals is to be perceived and to act as a trusted data partner. So if we were recognizing that there were a challenge to patients in that regard, then we would look for avenues that would mitigate that.
Perfect. And actually, one last question from my side. In terms of the level of evidence that you're looking for once you start working with a certain government, what is the level of evidence, and how long does that process last from the first point when we get in touch with you and then to the action point?
And this is a tough question as well. It's an excellent question. I would say the level of evidence really depends on the government, of course. In some cases, it's a little bit of a catch-22. We need the government support to put into place the ecosystem elements that are going to generate the evidence that will then convince them to continue to invest in this, right? So we're creating the evidence along the way. Our approach to that is to apply an experimental approach. So Croatia is an example where it's actually quite a broad national government approach. But in many other countries, what we're doing is we're working in a more of a local setting with one hospital, a small payer, and trying to set up an experiment of this ecosystem with people who have that shared interest in generating the data that will then show that it's scalable, right? So I do think, again, that's why I wanted to caution at the beginning of the sharing of Croatia that it really is a unique situation in Croatia, and it would be very, very hard to replicate that elsewhere. Elsewhere, we're really looking at much smaller experiments, again, with an individual hospital or two hospitals, and then creating that evidence. But the level of evidence that is required is high. I mean, it needs to be gold standard evidence that will convince these stakeholders to action. People whose mindsets are, have been shaped by years and years of traditional health system. So it is a high level of evidence, and in some cases we're asking stakeholders to take a little bit of a leap of faith with us that the evidence will pan out and will be compelling, and that's that comes with trust and true partnership, I think.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I think you shared a really important message of not giving up. It's a long journey. It takes a lot of time, trust, collaborations, being open to new ideas, to changing yourself, changing the policies that are currently implemented in the country, just being open to any advice.
And Stasha, just one other thing, I think coming along with that is the concept of failure, right? And I think when we're talking about experimentation, we're learning from things that work, and more importantly, we're learning from things that do not work. So, I think, that traditionally in the pharma sector, the word failure is not a good word. And that's a mindset that we all have to shift as well, that, not every experiment or pilot or small ecosystem change is going to be the right solution, but we can always learn from what didn't work to better apply our real solutions. So I think that's a key message for people in the startup world as well.
Exactly. And I think it also relates to the comments that you made regarding culture and education. I think our systems at the moment do not accept failures as a good thing. So I think the change has to be made from the very beginning, starting from recognizes what are those cultural things that we have, what are the disadvantages and advantages, and actually trying to find the diamond in the sea for us and playing with that. Thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you for your time. Thank you for inspirational talk. And I hope this will be, a good starting point, a good inspiration for Serbian government, for Serbian companies, both pharma and medtech, to start thinking in this way and really push on collaboration side and being open to both academia, industry, and government. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you. Now we are approaching the end of this event. I would like to invite Nevina, Ivana, and all of our judges because we will now discuss our startups and announce the winning team who will be competing at the local level at the Innovation Forum competition next year in Barcelona. Nevina, Ivana, and the judges, I hope you're all here.
Okay, I would like to give a word to Tony to pronounce the winner. So I hope that Tony will join us right now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's Tony here. I think my video doesn't come on, but it doesn't matter. That's fine. So, thank you, Stasha, Nevina. It's been for the super day overall. We had a very tough decision, the jury. We had 9 excellent presentations and just some generic feedback overall of what we found. I think everything had a very high focus on product technology and science, and it would have been good just a bit more evidence on customer validation, acceptance, more work on route to market and practical steps and what you've done and learned. So even as we've just heard, mistakes and failures are not a problem. We can all learn from them. So as I said, it's very difficult to decide. The winning team we thought had real potential, but still needs work on the proposition and presentation and focus. So going forward to the global competition, the winner from the Serbian jury is the team consisting of Vladimir, Tamara, and Ivan, Baby FM. Congratulations.
I hope we have Baby FM team with us.
So thank you so much one more time. We cannot see you now, but it was a great pleasure and honor to be part of this competition. We learned a lot, and we will prepare for the next step.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. I want to congratulate to everybody. It was a nice time. I hope that next year some of you will be on this stage.
Tony, Alexander, do we have any more comments for the team? Just from my side, I think all teams were fantastic. We seen amazing ideas from your side. One bad side, I think, for all of you was the business plan preparation. I think in terms of the global competition, this is something that is required. So not only for you, Baby FM, but for all other teams, please work on that. Please, besides highlighting the innovation side of your idea, mention the business plan. Think about your market strategy. Think about the financial projections, because this will sell your idea to the investors. And I really hope that Baby FM and all other startups did attract the interest of all our attendees today. We know that we have representatives from different sectors, from industry, from academia, from the government, and I really hope this will be an initial or starting point for future collaboration of all of us. Please do keep in touch. Please contact us. We are very happy to help and to offer further mentorship. And we will be in touch with Baby FM for further development of their ideas and the preparation for the global competition in Barcelona. Nevina, Ivana?
I would like to say congratulations to all the teams. I think that all the teams from this batch are the winners, having in mind that you've put so much effort into building your products in these new normal times. And I'm really eager to see all of you making your global breakthroughs in the coming months. So yeah, that's it from my side.
Congratulations, Baby FM. Congratulations to all other teams. Health Tech Lab will be there for all other steps until everything that you set for your own teams. And we'll keep supporting you. So keep innovating and keep working on development of your ideas. Good luck.
As mentioned previously, please do send us your emails if you want to get in touch with any of our guests. We are here for you to make those introductions and to make those collaborations happen. So yes, please feel free to contact us either on LinkedIn, email, Facebook, whatever is easiest for you. And I hope we will see you next year. Many more of us, many more innovative ideas, and the current startups with, as Nevina said, global breakthroughs and a really good acceleration from this point on. Good luck to everyone and see you next year.
Mm-hmm.